Welcome to Story Route Zero.
This is a podcast where friends gather to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the strange worlds of video games. We often don't know where we're going, but that's half the fun. Come on the journey with us. Hit us up on Twitter at StoryRoute0. You can send us an email at StoryRoute0@gmail.com. That includes questions, concerns, comments, complaints, pet pics. Send us some recipes. Send us some stories about your day. We're going to listen.
Podcast, start your engines. We have liftoff. Let's have a journey.
Run fast for your mother. Run fast for your father. Run for your children and your sisters and brothers. Leave all your love, all your loving behind. You can't carry it with you if you want to survive. Welcome to Story Route Zero, episode 49. My name is Matthew Keel. That was Florence and the Machine. Her song Dog Days Are Over, off of her debut album Lungs 10 years ago. Again, Story Route Zero, episode 49. This is our Game of the Year 2020, y'all. Our first actual annual Game of the Year thing. I know we started with a Game of the Year thing, but this is the first one doing it since we've actually been running. I've got my three co-hosts with me, representing the Clemson Nation, who had another win this week, if I remember correctly. Michaela Crescione, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm actually super well. I'll talk about that when we get to the weekend. But representing Jersey and the Notre Dame Nation, how are you, Jay?
Good. Clinched the ACC title game.
Congratulations. So great to win.
Against Clemson.
It's so great to win, to clinch the title game for conferences you're not even fucking in, because college football just makes its own rules up every year.
They're in it this year.
But next year they're going to be in the Pac-10 because why not?
Sure.
Because they can win that one. And representing below the Mason-Dixon line, the only Southern opinion that matters between the four of us, Moose Cool. How are you?
Doing well, man. Doing very well.
Cool. You guys ready? You got your top 10 lists? Mm-hmm. Ready to end this shit show of a year that was 2020? Okay, well, first off, how was everybody's weekend? Okay, Moose chimes in first with a thumbs up. Michaela gives us a waggly wrist. I think Jason just waved me on, just keep going.
Two thumbs up.
Michaela, you wrapped up dog sitting. You had inclement weather this weekend, but you got home safely. Give us the recap.
That's most of it. I was away dog sitting. There was inclement weather that I had to deal with. But, I mean, Clemson won. The Patriots shut someone out. Good for them. And
Brady's gone. We don't care. Fair weather fans.
No, man, it's not just
Get her,
Brady.
Moose.
I don't like Cam Newton, and I don't think they play as a team.
It's not Cam Newton's fault. That's more on Belichick, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's supposed to get that team going.
Well, I didn't like Cam Newton before he was a Patriot.
Everyone knows American football is a coach's game. It's not a player's game. Or very rarely is a player's game.
And I mean, a lot of people opted out, and a lot of people are injured, so it's not the Pats. It is, but it is not. But they shut out the Chargers, 45-0.
Ooh. Wow.
Well, hey, a broken clock is right twice a day, because the Cleveland Browns look like fucking world beaters this weekend. Yeah, I actually paid attention to some football. Because all of a sudden Baker Mayfield decided, I'm in the professional, American Football League.
I don't like him either.
I mean, how can you? He's kind of just I look at his face and he's like every generic prick villain in an 80s high school movie. I just want to punch him.
He did some stuff in college that I really didn't appreciate his attitude. like flipping off the cameras and showing really bad sportsmanship
and
on the sidelines.
Don't you know what? No, I don't want to talk about the sportsmanship in fucking sports because those who do shit in the name of fucking sportsmanship are just looking for something to hide behind. I think granted, the Baker Mayfield situation, he's just an asshole. He's just an asshole. Like, like it goes back to that Michael Jordan getting mad about the Pistons. Fucking the Celtics didn't do it either, and no one vilified them. They only vilified the Pistons because Jordan was angry. Fuck off. It's not sportsmanship. You guys are getting paid, all right? This isn't about sportsmanship. It's about you're not getting a bonus this year. That's what it's about. Except maybe in college football, which I don't know. As long as the NCAA doesn't find out about it, I guess it's fair. I don't know. Let's talk about how Alabama always ends up being so fucking good every time, they get a scandal. Let's talk about that. Or, Auburn. They've got several. I mean, whole thing is college football players should probably be compensated because that's again, wrong show for that. I'll start another podcast that no one will listen to. and
you aren't wrong, but yeah.
Right. I think I've filled enough time for Jason to get back. Jason Marshall, how was your weekend?
Next mother that interrupts me.
What?
I was just saying next person that interrupts me, but it's probably gonna be my. I don't
interrupts you from what?
Getting up again.
What? We'll stop.
Let's just drink your tea.
Where's the mute?
Oh,
it's a new record. How was your weekend, sir?
Not bad. Pretty good.
Cool. What'd you do?
Notre Dame won. Giants won. Still in the lead in the NFC East.
Oh, that might clinch them the NFC East, right?
Hey, they beat the Seahawks. They beat a real team.
Oh wow.
In Seattle.
Oh snap, son!
Yeah.
They went to the Lions' Den.
They asked Pete Carroll, and he was like, he didn't know what to say. He was baffled.
This is one of those weekends where everybody I follow on Twitter who even pays a modicum of attention to football was like, what the fuck is this team playing good this game? We're trying to get a good draft pick. And then the Giants look like world beaters.
And I had two reviews come out this week.
Yes, you did. Kronos Before the Ashes.
And Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
And Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
You pull the trigger on the limited run, yes or no?
I did.
Of course
Son of a
did.
bitch.
Well, I messaged him to remind it when I saw it in my inbox. I'm like, I'm going to push him over the edge.
She did. I fell. I was like, no. And then I checked my Gmail later. I'm like, shit, I knew that email was there and I should have deleted it. Damn it.
Well, I guess I better buy it.
No, it's worth it. It's a really fun game.
Well, it's also a good team too. Developed.
Yeah, I like.
They're special at the limited run of Cosmic
Star. Yes.
Yeah. Cosmic Star. What else did they do before that? They did something else.
They've done Cthulhu Saves the World and Breath of Death 7, which is not a seventh entry. It's just.
Are they the ones that did Viking Squad?
No, they're the ones that did. They picked up episodes 3 and 4 of the
Precipice
for Penny Arcade.
Oh,
Penny Arcade did their first 2 games, and then Z-Boy Games after, I want to say Breath of Death 7, they came in and did those 2 games.
Yes, before Cosmic Star.
Yeah, before Cosmic Star. Yeah.
Cosmic Star makes a Bloodborne reference. I think when it happened, I sent the screenshot immediately to Moose. I'm like, look.
My reaction is I know, but I don't know why I know that.
I may have sent it to you too.
Maybe.
It's funny. It's just like, hey, this is like a trick weapon. It must do something when you do something else.
Well, speaking of Cthulhu Saves Christmas, the gentleman who joined our Remnant stream, Julian, he posted a picture of himself on Twitter with reindeer antlers, and I tweeted at him. I said, "Cthulian saves Christmas," and he's like, "I like that nickname." I'm like, "It's a video game, but you should try." so
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Got one more review left for the year.
Ooh, what you got?
Supposedly.
Morbid to 7 Acolytes. I'll just say it's got some Bloodborne-ian.
That sounds very
inspirations.
anime. When did Obelisk start doing anime, Michaela?
When I joined.
Nice.
I probably should have expected that, but I didn't. So,
It's an isometric Bloodborne-ian Diablo. Yeah, Bloodborne-ian is a new word.
wow, they're just touching all
Genre
sorts of
now.
spots for you.
There's one game in it.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So for me, my weekend started off very, very poorly. Woke up on Saturday, puking my face off, and did not go to work. Went to sleep for about 6 hours. Woke back up completely fucking energized. Like it was like I had a bunch of energy drinks, but like not like shitty ones, but like you feel really like healthily energized. Like I had like I had the sleep worth of like 6 months concentrated in 6 hours. Reba and I put our office together. We did grocery shopping. We prepped a bunch of food. Started drinking. And I actually built a Gundam. As an actual Gundam, you can tell by the yellow V on this guy's head.
I thought that was
See it.
Voltron.
No, this is a Gundam. Voltron, I think, is inspired
These
by
lions.
Gundam. Gundam's head looks a lot like Optimus Prime. Reba made that observation. But yeah, this guy was really fun to build. Took me about 5 hours, and yeah, I actually did the stickers and everything, which I didn't do for the last one. And this is I actually think this hobby might be here to stay. It's really like therapeutic doing that. So yeah,
I get that. I mean, I like that with Legos. So I get that with Gundam.
Oh yeah, this is
Gundam,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, even if they're not from Gundam, they're called Gunpla just because Bandai kind of runs the market on that. But that giant boy is from Zeta Gundam, I believe, and I took pictures of him, basically caressing Sackboy, holding a giant beer can of Only Void from Tired Hands, and I put I have the collector's edition of The Last Guardian, and the little figure of the boy that comes with that, I put it in his hand and took a perspective shot where it makes it look like I feel like I took a really good picture with that, but that's just me. Other than that, yesterday Reba and I made Thanksgiving burritos. I made waffles for breakfast, and because we didn't get to have a Thanksgiving because I worked and Reba was on call. So we did our Thanksgiving. I did my Thanksgiving burritos, which is basically Thanksgiving stuff wrapped up in a tortilla, and we washed it down with caramel apple sangria, and we had a good old time. Reba food prepped her cauliflower buffalo chicken casserole, which we had tonight for dinner, as well as meatloaf, which Reba makes a dynamite meatloaf. I have a wife that can really fucking cook, and sometimes I have to make sure I appreciate her.
Wait, what does that sound? Is that you getting fatter? Yeah.
Probably. Actually, ironically, she keeps telling me I look like I'm losing weight, so I don't know how that. But then again,
it's a win. That is a win-win.
It's because she cooks so healthy. Her food tastes amazing, but it's all like ridiculously healthy.
Well, that's good. That's good then, man.
So I think that's about enough. we can head to games now, which we're not going to talk about what we're playing because it's our Game of the Year episode. And as per the prerequisites to have a Game of the Year episode, every one of us has played every single game to the point where we can spoil all of them. I like how Moose is looking completely confused right now.
No,
Wait, I watched 10 previews and threw them on the list.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do. So yeah, we're gonna go through our top 10 games of the year individually for the year 2020. I was supposed to record a spoiler warning for the previous show, but apparently everything I would use to do that has outpaced my old ass Mac. So I couldn't do that pre last show releasing. So sorry. So I'm doing it now. We will probably spoil some shit. So if spoilers are a thing, just know that like from now on through the rest of the show, it's kind of possible to happen. I do have several guest top 10 or top games of the year lists. Not all of them are 10s, but we will do them once we get about halfway through ours. And I'm going to have Jason run the show again because I think he did a fantastic job last time.
Thank you.
Before we go on, does anybody have anything they want to say before doing this? Like a preamble or an opening statement or an opening argument or
everything that guy said is bullshit.
I didn't see nothing.
Thank you for the My Cousin Vinny reference, Jason. It's always loved and appreciated in this house.
Well, before we do start, anyone have any honorable mentions that just missed the top 10 you want to run through quick? Anyone?
I do, actually.
Go ahead.
And to be honest, and I know I'm going to basically stick my foot all the way in my mouth right now. I have a feeling by the time I actually write my Game of the Year like essay that I usually do for my website, I wouldn't be surprised if some of this changes. I should have been prepared. I should have been better prepared than I am at this point. But I have
you're better prepared than me, so you're okay.
Yeah, but I you know what? Never mind. I don't have honor mentions.
Spoiler: last episode, Moose didn't realize was the Game of the Year categories.
And he was writing. He was writing them as he went.
No. I've been keeping a good list.
He just didn't know we were recording.
I didn't know we were recording, and I'm like, shit, I gotta finalize stuff.
So I thought I had my list of stuff that went beyond 10, but I do not. So
then there's nothing beyond worth mentioning. We're good to go. Let's roll.
Sorry.
I just have two I want to throw. One is it's a game, but it's not a game. It's Astro.
I was going to say that. I felt conflicted because we didn't mention it all last time.
I really think if you don't play this and have a PS5, you're seriously missing out. Like, I was just surprised at how much I played straight through. I didn't play anything else. And it was just like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, oh, this is awesome. Like, just the little references, just the showcase of the controls. I had no complaints. Like, I think it used every part of the system, which obviously was intended, but it just was done so well that it's really can't miss if you own PS5.
And what I cared about it made me smile. It just made me fucking happy. And that's sometimes all a game needs to do.
So you guys are closer to your keyboard than I am. Can one of you Google if the same team developed Astro's Astrobot Rescue Mission for PSVR?
I would say probably.
It did.
I mean, okay, so, because if it's any, I mean, I don't have a PS5 and I didn't play this, but Astrobot Rescue Mission for VR is like that. What I said that the year that came out was it's the best new Sony character since Sackboy, and it was like Michaela said. Everything that happens in that game made me grin. Like even like it was one of the things that my wife enjoyed putting on the VR headset and looking for those guys. Like we had a ball just like basically
It is a
passing
fun
the headset.
happy game.
It's Sony Japan, Asobi studio that did it. They did both.
Okay.
And actually, funny enough, before the show, I got an email that the PS5 adapters are officially available if you register for VR to play. Which now I'm like, now I'm going to play Rescue Mission on PS5 instead.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, play Astro Bud. It's really fucking cool. The way that they capture the idea of a little buddy in a game in Rescue Mission, but it's also like kind of the object games. You have to find all of them, but like they all feel like they're your little robot buddy. Like if you're in a game, what games have good companions? I can't think of one right now.
Sonic.
No, like where you see like a little pet or something going along with your character, almost like an MMO. Never mind. I will drag this on till I figure it out, and I'm just gonna nope out here. It's adorable. Play it.
Oh, and my other. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Nope.
Nope. I'm not gonna talk.
My other honorable mention.
Memory.
Yep.
No. Can we just do one episode? Just one episode.
That's on Michaela's list, right?
We did a lot of episodes before we mentioned it.
It was before it was announced.
My other mention, and it's not on my list because I technically played it last year, is Cthulhu Saves Christmas, because it's now available on Switch. It was PC only last year, which is when I played it and reviewed it. But I think this is, read my review, but I think this is a really great...
CEO. It's a good review.
Thank you. I think it's a great game, and it probably would have been on my list had this been the first time I played it.
Okay.
Michaela?
Yeah, so I had Astros as something I wanted to mention, and two quick honorable mentions. Mortal Shell, I just didn't play enough of it to include it, but I think as a debut game, that studio should be very, very proud of the quality of game they put out. And
Fair.
For me, honorable mention to Last of Us 2, because I didn't play it, so I'm not going to include it, but I did watch the whole thing and appreciated it from a narrative, visual, design, audio, casting, etc. standpoint. Very quality game, but I did not personally play it. I watched it. So
We'll talk about that later.
yes, I figured.
So how many of you have Cyberpunk 2077 on your list? Oh yeah, none of us.
Funny enough,
As far as I'm concerned, good.
I did put in a review for the review code. I didn't get it, but I applied.
Well. Better luck next crunch
ACG
game.
didn't get it either, though. Did you see that?
Yep. So they didn't give any console reviews either, which is weird. But anyway, number 10. We'll start with Moose.
Oh, my number 10
Gets
is
a pen.
only this low on the list because I didn't play as much of it as I wanted to. It's Final Fantasy VII Remake. I want to go back to it, and I actually do want to platinum it. I've been thinking about it. This year I took some time off from platinuming games, but it just was nostalgia city playing the beginning part of that, and I want to get back to it. But yes, it's my number 10.
I'm going to assume
I have it.
I'm going to assume we'll be talking about this a little bit later.
It's probably high on Michaela's list, so I will bring up more points that I want to discuss later for that purpose. But,
All right.
Number 10, Matt.
My number 10 is a tie between two games. One of them is Animal Crossing New Horizons, developed by Nintendo. I'm assuming that's going to be later. Yes? No? Maybe? Okay, Moose is nodding. The other is I know none of y'all played this game because when I explain it, all of you looked at me like the way we looked at Michaela after last episode when she was talking about Hell House from Final Fantasy VII, where like she dropped acid and then started saying words. Blaze Ball by the Game Band. Blaze Ball is it's I think this game only could have been a success in 2020. And I'm not trying to be pejorative about it. I feel like if it would have come out any other like normal-ish year, it would have had its community and its cheerleaders. But with most of the people sort of staying in one place, working at home, just people that were able to, or just having quarantine and lockdown, this place was able to, or Blazeball was able to find a sweet spot of hardcore fans that were able to generate so much art, so much interest, so much narrative, and in kind, the game band as a development team responded by keeping the sport itself fresh and different and ever evolving. Like I said in the last episode, like one of the seasons ended not in a World Series, but a giant JRPG battle. And I forget who it was. I forget who the entity that the JRPG battle was against, but I'm pretty sure it brought a lot of dead players back from the dead. So, that was the kind of outlandish thing. That was the kind of outlandish thing that I really enjoyed following very rapidly when it was released. And I'm still following it now, but like not near as rapidly because exhaustion and burnout have really gotten a hold of me towards the end of this year. But Blaze Ball is a wonderful experience, and it is for being completely non-illustrated. The community has brought forth a ton of fan art to really enliven that world. I know it's my 10th and I'm talking a long time about it, but I feel like it's the only chance it's really going to get. So we can move on.
I feel a lot of your description described Animal Crossing as well, with the benefit of people being home and its spike in popularity. I think any other year, not saying Animal Crossing, it's still not for me, but I think it would take a dive because I know some people who played it who wouldn't have put in 200 hours because they're in their office and don't have that time when they get home to put that.
Agree.
So,
I mean, the only reason I played it this year is because I'd never played an Animal Crossing.
Well, yeah.
And the Doom Crossing marketing really got to me in a way. I'm like, I know what Doom is. I don't know what Animal Crossing is. So let's find out.
Michaela, number 10.
Pretty sure this won't be on anyone else's list because I don't think anybody else here played it. But my number 10 is Crash Bandicoot 4. It's About Damn Time. It's another nostalgia property. I've been waiting for a long time to see a new Crash game. Actually, what I would really, really love is a new Spyro game, but I'm waiting patiently for that. And it's the same people who did the Spyro remake for the trilogy. They did a fantastic job. Like I was talking about, the controls feel very true to what you expect from Crash Bandicoot. The levels are really true to what you'd expect. There's fun surprises and things for you to find. There's really frustrating sections that I probably just suck at because I'm not good at especially 3D platformers that are like a Crash that are really tight and really difficult. But I love the character switching. You can play different levels as different, like you can play as Crash, or there's story scripted sections where you're playing as Tawna, or sometimes you just play as a sister and you can switch, and they have like cosmetic options that are just kind of there for funsies, and it's all kind of just like dumb and crazy, and it's all very, very Crash Bandicoot, and it's exactly what I wanted from a new installment in a very classic franchise that, growing up with. So nostalgia trip there.
Now, I have a quick question. So you played Crash Bandicoot, the originals, before?
Yeah, my cousins had them. Okay. It was one of those situations.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, my experience with them was not positive at all. So it's nice to see that sort of.
I
And I will say
very
this
much like I played the pass the controller at your cousin's house way.
Okay, all right. Well, like my one compliment to this one is like of all the platforming stuff that it does, the them using a crash skin to do what looked like very difficult and very interesting platforming action, as opposed to like the previous games, which I don't remember being all that interesting. But that was a long time ago. That was a very long time ago, though.
The
So
later Crash games had more to them than like the first one did.
okay,
So if you play like Crash 3, you're gonna have a very different experience than playing Crash 1. I was never into Crash Team Racing or anything like that, but there's definitely more variety in the gameplay for sure.
okay, all right, cool.
It's interesting you mentioned Spyro because it was confirmed today. There's this little teaser for Spyro 4 in the Crash Bandicoot art book.
I
It's
wouldn't
very
even
vague.
be surprised if it is going to be Toys for Bob making that too. So
It's a little vague.
you know it's going to happen. You
Just
know it's going
Google
to
it,
happen.
and there's something about, and one of the artists confirms, like, and that's Spyro, and it's like, oh.
Well, I've liked more Spyro games than I ever liked a Crash game. I only like 2 Spyro games, and they were Skylanders games. So
My number 10 is about a certain Spider-Man. Are we going to be talking about this later?
yes, we will be.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, 2020 as a year might have sucked, but for video games, pretty damn good that Spider-Man was number 10 on my list.
That's true. That's true.
That is that's a good. Yeah.
Number 9, Moose.
All right, I'm pulling a video game awards here. I'm going with Division 2 Warlords of New York, simply because I've played way more hours of that game after the DLC came out and introduced the seasons than I had the initial year that it came out. Plus, it is a really good story, which I'm looking forward to the end when Season 4 starts tomorrow, actually. Actually, tonight at midnight it starts. But I'm looking forward to tearing through that and having a good time with it. They added a lot of replayability to it, obviously, since I played, 1,005 hours when you looked. I'm sure it's up further now, like by 20 or 30 hours.
I'm pretty sure it's closer to 1,200 hours.
Yeah, you were at 11:26-ish last episode.
You were at exactly 11:26.
I thought it was 1,000.
Because that number stuck in my head because my head's a death trap for bullshit. But
So,
anyway.
okay.
I just got confirmation from Jeff Keighley. You put 1,000 hours in, it can be in your top 10.
But,
well, and just to be fair, these are our personal lists. None of us are, well, okay,
Right.
Michaela and Jason are game critics, but like also
This is not an industry list.
yeah, we're not GameSpot, we're not IGN, we're not Polygon. We're 4 people having a good time here.
That said, and I'll let Moose continue, I will say Warlords, while a DLC acts differently as a DLC than other add-ons, Warlords is a whole new, it adds like a new system to it. It's not just
Warlords is a different beast altogether. It means like Miles Morales. Like that
like
could
because, and I'm obviously I love Borderlands, but the DLC are complete like campaigns, like their whole stories, missions, different worlds. Like it has nothing. It's not just like a add-on like you do one. Like it's not like Call of Duty, a map pack. You get 3 new maps for multiplayer. Like Warlords is a separate. It's like a new zone. There's new missions. There's a whole new hub. Like
there's a new leveling system as
so
well.
I would consider that. Not. I mean, it's you probably put more. Well, you put more into that than most people put into any game. But you probably, even if you just beat the game, I mean, it lasted longer than Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
Probably
just beating the
longer than
missions.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No, it did.
But the other good things about it is it added a completely different leveling system from level 30 to 40. There's no more like gear score. It's now like you're just looking for loot for level 40, and then you're moving from there. They upgraded a bunch of stuff, like being able to recalibrate your exotics, recalibrating your gear.
This time out, the recalibration station was so much more sensible than it was in the first game.
Yeah, so it's just they improved on a lot of things, and then they added the summit, which was free for people that owned it, and that's a lot of fun to like run through and have a good time with, except for the end, which is just you have to cheese the guys. So it's like this is poor game design, but the previous 99 levels are fun. So I'd highly recommend it if you've played Division 2 and you were on the fence about the DLC. I'd say it's on sale. Well, it's been on sale. It was on sale for, I think, Black Friday. It'll probably go on sale again around Christmas. I highly recommend picking it up and playing through it. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Matt?
My number 9 is Ghost of Tsushima. I'm going to assume we'll be talking about this later.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on.
Michaela?
Basing it off of the console release of this one, I have Crosscode as number 9. I don't know if anybody else, it made it into your top 10s. Probably not.
No.
Nope. Yeah. All right. So I had Crosscode as my number 9. Obviously, we already talked about this at least Jason and I did in our fireside chat game club.
We have an episode devoted to this game.
Yeah.
I'll bet you we have an episode devoted to multiple games on this list.
So it was like Cthulhu Saves Christmas. It was on PC last year and consoles this year, right?
Yeah. Technically,
Yeah,
I think it released into early access in 2018.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Full release on PC and then went full release on console.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Switch. And this one I just really liked it because it was an RPG mashup, like part platformer, part RPG. It had a really good sense of humor. I liked the characters, I liked the world, I liked the story. I like the gameplay. It's very clever, some of the puzzles and stuff like that, especially the environmental stuff. I liked the music. The music actually was surprisingly good, to me at least.
It's dope in this game, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It made me another game like Astros, it just made me very happy the whole time.
Hey man, video games are about fun. If fun doesn't make you happy, okay, fine, but it's still about fun.
Speaking of games that make you happy, my number 9 is, if you're watching, Chronos Before the Ashes. I had so much fun. I mean, my fun was probably magnified by the amount that I put into Remnant and all the references, but it was just so cool, like, because it's a totally different game, but it has all that lore that I think I said so many times to Matt, like, do we even know what's going on? Like, I finally solved the puzzle of, they kept referencing that dragon. You find out in Chronos what the dragon is.
Wait, what? So the dragon? Are we not talking about Singe?
Singe is not the dragon that they're referencing. Okay. The big bad dragon. No, there's a dragon they've been referencing, and you find out in Chronos what it is. And I was like, that makes more sense.
Okay,
I get it. But it was, I had an absolute blast playing it. Also, check out obelisk.co for my review. But
I actually, as someone who has read your writing for over a year now, your Chronos review is one of my favorite reviews that you've ever written.
Thank you.
So I think you did that game proud.
Thank you.
So
it's actually, now I can ask all three of you, because I mentioned in the review, the combat is Souls-like, but what did we call that type of combat pre-Souls? With the whole light and heavy, parry, dodge. Did we even have a term for this before it became Souls-like?
I mean, some people call it the dodge and poke stuff. I don't know if that's pre-Souls.
Yeah, I mean, that's a...
I mean, I never saw it as dodge and poke, but there was definitely a stick and move aspect to it, but that's like from boxing. Like, I think there really wasn't a complete unified term for it.
Because I hate just saying Souls-like when it doesn't carry the whole difficulty, dying, you lose your souls, you have to check. Like, just the mere light, heavy, dodge, be patient type. I mean, the combat is similar to most, so you can't just rush in, really.
Right.
But the combat was enjoyable. The puzzles were cool. I mean, as a Remnant fan, the references were definitely.
Now, is the multiplayer very similar to Remnant?
There is no multiplayer.
No multiplayer. Okay.
No.
All right. I was just curious.
That
would
would
be
kind of make
interesting if
sense
there
because it
was.
was originally a VR title, right?
Yeah, it was an Oculus title. It would be interesting, but I mean, I did mention that combat's kind of infrequent. There's more exploration than there is hordes of enemies. Plus, you have just a big stick versus the particle accelerator.
Or the beam rifle, or the swarm, or the Song of Swords.
Yeah.
Remnant's so good. I'm gonna play
Remnant's
this
good.
eventually.
Yeah, I tried to keep as many spoilers out of it because the ending's really cool. And for Remnant fans, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, when I watched a couple of, I didn't watch any gameplay of it, but watching like trailers for it, I'm sort of like, wait a minute, that's basically where you show up in Remnant.
Yeah, I mean, I put that picture.
A lot
in
of
there.
that.
Yeah, that's where you show up, which is, and there's a lot. All the worlds are like the labyrinth looks familiar. Pan, that jungle is there. Like, all those,
nice.
Yeah, those things are there. And first time you see the stone, you're like, wait a minute, and you interact with the stone the same way. It's like that. You don't get punted out of it though.
Oh, God.
But yep, that's my 9. 8 Moose.
ITA, ITTA, the twin stick shooter, which is kind of like a little bit of exploration built in with a kind of boss rush game. Like you don't really experience any combat unless you're fighting the boss. So I enjoyed that. The bosses are tough, little bullet hellish, and always like one more try. Like when you die,
some of those bosses are just, you beat them and you're like, how the hell did I survive that?
Yeah, it gets kind of crazy. The upgrade system's pretty cool. Like you pick up, I guess, remains of weapons or whatever. Take them back to the weaponsmith, and they'll build it for you. And you can have different guns to like fit your different style. Like I'm using a shotgun right now, and it's really a beautiful game too. Like it's pixel art and it's a pretty game. So I recommend if you're looking for something that's like kind of pick up and play.
It's a sad story too.
Yeah.
Underlying story is pretty depressing.
Underlying story is like really depressing, but it's like, okay, well, we're gonna keep doing this. So, but I highly recommend picking it up and checking it out, especially if you like twin stick shooters and shooters with like obviously with some difficulty. So yeah.
Matt?
My number 8 is Yakuza Like a Dragon. And the only reason this game is this low is because I don't feel like I'm even halfway through it yet. But whenever one comes across a game that makes like a super special impression on them, you kind of have to acknowledge that. And while I did not beat this game, I can acknowledge that this game made a fucking impression on me, considering I'm still playing it. This game was actually probably the perfect place for me to come into the Yakuza series. Someone who has looked at these games and wanted to jump in, but for whatever reasons has not. This game, I showed up at the right time for me, because you have an earnest as shit character in Ichiban Kasuga, who is doing nothing but trying to be a Yakuza the way he idealizes them. And while his peers in his current Yakuza family sort of say, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you doing it this way? They're like, because I think we could do better. I think we can be better. Well, and then eventually he gets sort of kicked in the ass and then drops a few rungs in terms of having no real safety net. And then he has to work his way back. And he also finds that once you're outside of the Yakuza, you don't have immediate cred anymore. You have to earn it. And I really appreciate that. The turn-based combat is special in a way that it knows that it's, turn-based combat, but it also knows that each of these combat encounters have some sort of reason. It's not just random people popping up on a map like Dragon Quest, the way Ichiban sort of references throughout the story. I think the side characters are wonderful. The early game, I say world building, but it's not necessarily like building, because you don't really get the world of Kamurocho at the start. You get sort of characters as Ichiban knows them before the player comes into his life. So it's all sort of it's sort of lived in, I guess, is probably the way to go. And that also happens in Yokohama, where you kind of feel like you are the invader throughout. And it makes, and being like 5 or 6 chapters in, I can't wait to get to the end of this. And it is very wonderful. And I highly recommend that everybody on the panel and everybody who might listen at least give it a shot.
Definitely will eventually. Yeah, so my number, what are we at? 8?
8.
8
is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which I actually spent a decent amount of time with this week on my Switch.
Oh,
I don't know why I expected this to be higher.
My top 6 are pretty tight. So
Okay.
it's a rough race.
It is a good year for games. A shit year for everything else, but to me it's been the best year for video games since 2017. But yeah,
I agree with that.
Second Ori game takes everything that I loved about the first Ori game and just adds more of everything. It's more Metroidvania than the original is. There's a heavier emphasis on the action and the combat, because the first one, yes, there was combat, but it was more about the platforming and exploration. And now here, it's still a lot about the platforming and exploration, and they added new mechanics to that. And the sand digging was one of the first things I remember seeing in a trailer. I was like, oh, cool. They added a new element to the environments. And of course, they're all freaking gorgeous because it's Ori. Everything is gorgeous. The music is gorgeous. The visuals are gorgeous. Even when you die, you're like, yeah, it's okay. It was gorgeous. It's fine.
Death is so beautiful.
And with the greater emphasis on the combat, there's actually boss fights in this thing now. So it's not just escape sequences that mark your progression through, because like the original Ori, there's 4 chapters and 4 big platforming, the floor is lava and rising type of situations where you need to finish the chapter by doing that. Now it's part escape sequence, part boss fights, and the story is somehow even more tragic. Like the first game's not a happy game for most of it. Like at the beginning of it, your adoptive mom creature dies, sort of.
What'd you say about my mom? I'm just kidding.
And in this one, you and spoilers for the first Ori, you're not actually dead mom creature, and your spider friend fostered the last surviving owl child of the main antagonist from the first game, who was a big owl, and her name is Ku. And Ku gets lost at the beginning of the game, and it's your journey to go and find Ku, or at least I thought that would be most of the game, but you actually find her like a third of the way into the game. And spoilers alert for anybody listening, but Then they like sort of, at first I thought they killed her. I thought Ku died. Like she gets stomped pretty hard and she's like mostly dead. But we have to find the rest of the wisps to restore like the
So,
strength.
have you never seen The Princess Bride?
Yes, I've seen The Princess Bride.
Well, then you should know there's a difference between mostly dead and all dead.
Oh my god. I know what you're talking about. Yep. But just like rodents of unusual size, I don't think that exists. So, gotcha. But Queen of Filth. No. So,
that escalated.
You fell for one of the classic blunders.
But yeah, so it's really, the story's more emotional. Also, one of the things that I really like about Ori 2 that Ori 1 didn't have, and I didn't necessarily think to miss it when I played the original Ori, is there's more characters in the world. Like there's NPC type characters that are littered throughout the world and they move depending on which area of the map you're in, because this is a sizable game. It's a little bit bigger than the first Ori is. So like instead of a 10 to 12 hour game, you're looking at like a 12 to 15 hour game. And they give you side quests. So there's more interactivity and world building going on here that I appreciate. But yeah, very solid game. It just takes forever to load in. Like when I load the game, it's like a Horizon Zero Dawn on the PS4 situation.
Are you playing on
complaint.
Switch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the load time. I mean, the load times were bad in Ori 1.
Just bad. But otherwise, great game.
Number 8. This is another game I reviewed. Son of a bitch. Number 8 on my list is Kunai.
That means you actually played it.
My number 8 is Kunai. You play
Wow.
as a sentient television.
How dare I put games that I know about on my top 10? What the hell?
I'm just surprised.
A sentient ninja robot who can grapple across the ceiling. It's so much fun. I really had a blast.
Spider ninja robot?
Yes. And now Spider Pig's in my head, that lyric.
Awesome. Awesome.
No, this game was just
Peter
an absolute
Porker.
blast. It's a Metroidvania, and sometimes they get frustrating because you never know where to go, but the traversal in this game kind of made up for it. It's like, oh, I gotta go back that way, and you're just swinging across, and it's like, pull out your katana, throw shit. Like it was similar to another ninja type game that's probably going to be discussed later.
Sweet.
Moose, number 7.
Carry On, the reverse horror game. That game is a lot of fun. Playing, quote unquote, the thing and just tearing doors open and throwing them against humans, plucking humans from across the room and eating
God,
them.
I need to fucking play this game. Jesus.
It's a lot of fun. It's got Metroidvania vibes to it because you got to like unlock certain areas and get power-ups to be able to unlock other areas. And then it's just not like you also have some stealth areas because it's not just like you're the more powerful than the humans. Like sometimes they'll be in robots with laser beams, or you gotta like be stealthy and
lasers.
So you want to you have to be stealthy and avoid them. So you can die. It's not just like you're an all-powerful thing just running amok. I mean, you're running amok, but you got to be very careful about where you're running amok. It's also pretty too. Like you
have to be deliberate with your amok.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to just throw it out there for anyone to
Sometimes you walk amok.
Yeah.
Sometimes you sneak amok.
Yeah. But yeah, I highly recommend.
This is why you write reviews, Jason.
I'm done. I'm out.
That's it.
Sometimes you gotta walk amok. Oh my God, that was so good.
Number 7, Matt.
For me, Captain Tsubasa: Rise of the New Champions by Tamsoft, published by Bandai Namco. So this game is super fucking fun. It's really good. It's really good soccer mechanics. Just like if you just jump into the, I'm gonna be a soccer team to play against this soccer team, whatever. It's basically FIFA where, with the exception of the through pass and the cross pass, or no, I'm sorry, the cross pass and the shooting are inversed from FIFA. So like instead of like what you would push to shoot in FIFA, you would push to cross in Captain Tsubasa. But if you get into the campaign, it turns into the narrative of a youth soccer squad in a way that is just wonderful. It's well written. All the characters on just about every team are fucking lovable. And ultimately it's like one boy band against another boy band. So you could basically make the dodgeball comparison, that crappy, Ben Stiller film, but, better, in Captain Tsubasa. But it's
hold on.
Go ahead.
I don't take offense to the Ben Stiller part, but we did get ESPN the Ocho. Some good came from that.
Sure, fair. Yep,
Okay.
fair.
I just wanted to clarify that
fine.
It wasn't just garbage.
No,
ESPN the Ocho.
I mean, and frankly, how many times a year have any of us said, "That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him." But ultimately, like this is a soccer game with narrative, anime, visual novel interspersed. And it's kind of beautiful because the one thing that I have a fascination with in terms of my fandom with sports is I love the idea of a season as a story. I like how it begins and how you see meteoric rises and fallaways depending on, injuries, trades, just goings on that might happen in a season. Is a season cut short because of a strike? Captain Tsubasa, it doesn't tackle like the strikes or anything because it's youth soccer, but the idea of having each player on the team with dialogue and input to how to run the team is wonderful, and I did not expect it. And what really pushed this over the top was the second campaign where you can create your own character. Pick whatever team. You don't have to be on Tsubasa's team to get a narrative. You could pick whichever team you'd like, and you get to know those characters, and you get to see how they interact. And if you get picked for, but unfortunately, like the one thing they really don't do is your character is in Japan. So you're Japanese. So it's funny creating myself as a Japanese person. But I get, if you get called up to the Japanese youth squad, you get to meet characters that were written from other nationalities. And granted, they're all sort of referencing either legends of soccer or current stars of soccer, but the story here is super deep and super rewarding. And I never got tired of it. It was really, really fun. And it was kind of how I always thought about things when my cousins or friends and I as kids would play, basketball in the driveway. Like we would do our own narrative of the season, be it over several hours rather than, a year. So Captain Tsubasa, Rise of the New Champions, you should play this game. It's really good.
Kayla?
This one, I had trouble about where to put it in the list because I almost put it lower. Some people had no issues with this game. Some people had 1 or 2 issues with this game, but nobody else had 13, okay? So
she's looking at somebody.
So
Hey,
it's probably higher
lucky.
for someone else. This one's probably higher for somebody else, but my number 7 is Miles Morales.
It is higher for me.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
It's higher. Now we're running out of numbers. I'm guessing. Number 7 for me is another game I reviewed. This is the last. Okay, no, it's not the
He's
last
a
one. Never mind.
machine.
He was about to
Never
say.
mind. It's not the last one. Okay, anyway. My number
Look
7
at you being on a podcast with your friends and just flexing your game critic muscle, Jason. Way to go, bro.
This is a game
Number-
he reviewed and I edited. We're gonna start flexing that. I had to
I like
edit
it.
all this shit.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Did you edit this one?
I'm not sure who's doing the teabag.
I think I edited most of it.
Yeah,
Did
I
I
probably.
not?
I think you
Unofficial
only
podcast
missed
Bob
the
List.
first few. Anyway, number 7 is Neon Abyss. This game is
Nice.
so much fun.
Nice.
Like,
This should I didn't remember this, but this is an honorable mention for me. This game is so
this
good.
game, like, so many games give you like superpowers. Neon Abyss lets you have all of them. Like games
At
are like you
once.
only get 2. Neon Abyss is like, you can have 30. You might blow yourself up, but have fun with it.
Yeah.
And the powers weren't just laser beam, double rockets. They were like popcorn, which makes everything explode, or bodyguard, and you take more bullet damage, or
Or
you take less
demon
bullet
wings and you can fly.
It was just such a fun game, and it is a nod to a game that's going to be higher when we talk about Hades and the Underworld. Same universe. No, it's
Yeah,
a
it
nod
really
for,
is.
It's,
It
it's
really-
a nod
it really
for other
is.
people. It's
Yeah.
going to be the second mythology based game.
That's true. No, you're right. You're right, Jay. You're right.
All right, number 6.
All right. My number 6 is Jet Lancer, which is a shooter. Basically, it's like, what is it, Luftrausers?
Luftrausers.
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 Whatever.
Luftrausers!
Yes.
That's a good one.
It's really cool. It's got a good story. You're just out there trying to figure out what the hell's going on. You're a fighter pilot in some kind of, almost like Galaxy, Matt, where you're like trying to figure out like what's going on with the plane that you got and everything, and so you have power ups for it.
Then all of a sudden it turns into a mech.
No, but
Damn, I was hoping
that would have been cool.
Right.
But the bosses, the first boss made it on my top bosses list as an honorable mention. The tower, and it's just a lot of fun to play. Like you've got boosting, you've got missiles. You can change up your weapons if you want as you go. Like you can just swap out your scatter shot missiles for like a harder hitting laser beam, or if you want. And then it just does like a progression where like you move, like you're basically on a space aircraft carrier, and you just can move the aircraft carrier from mission to mission and pick like where you want to go first. So it's kind of open world, if you want to say that. But I highly recommend checking it out if you like shooters and just fun in general. Good game. That's it.
Cool.
Matt? 6.
This is number 6. Mine is Spelunky 2 by Mossmouth Games. I think in a year where a certain game that we'll probably all mention at some point in our lists respectively, in a year where that game didn't come out, Spelunky 2 would have fared much better on this list. I stand by the fact that I still think this is probably the best designed game this year. But I have to recognize that most of that work was done on Spelunky 1. And then, Derek and his team, Derek Yu specifically, and his team iterating on Spelunky 1 in ways that weren't just, let's try and fuck the player a lot more. Shows that he knows what made Spelunky 1 good, and he wanted to do right by that. He left plenty of new styles of mystery in this game, and much like my time with Spelunky 1, when I first started playing it, I got as far as I could, started beating my head against the wall, and then started watching other people play it. Then I was able to get better, and then I watched a full playthrough, like not a speed run, but like a full playthrough, because let's be honest, it took me 5 years to beat Spelunky 1. So it's probably going to take me another 5 to beat this one.
Did you see the IGN speed run that Derek and the art director and someone else watched?
Yeah. Yes.
That was even Derek was like, I can only comment after the levels because it doesn't register yet.
Yeah, like and no, it is Spelunky 2 is going to probably outlast a lot of what comes out in 2020, and I think it'll be talked about for years to come, because it is ultimately a very, very special game. But in my list specifically, I tend to respond the way that Michaela has talked about games. If it makes me smile, it tends to do a lot better. And Spelunky 2 makes me smile, yes, but it also makes me very, very sad all too quickly. So Spelunky 2, number 6.
You also have multiplayer to look forward to.
Yeah.
There's multiplayer in the first one. There's I think you can.
Well, they're
play,
working on the cross platform.
Yeah, I think you could.
It was
play,
online.
I think you could play local now. I know the online multiplayer is not running well.
Oh, it's already up and running. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's running, it's not running well.
Okay. Cool.
Michaela?
This was another one that was tough for me to place. But for number 6, I have Persona 5 Royal, which would have been higher if I had never played Persona 5 in 2017.
Okay.
And if this was an industry list, I wouldn't have it on here at all, but it's a personal list. But
well, I think industry lists are still. I think there are probably several industry lists that end up with it on it.
Yeah, like it's nominated Game Awards for RPG of the Year. But to me, that's like nominating Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. It's like a unreleased DLC added to a game that's been re-released.
Well, because Melody of Memory would be hot.
I was waiting for it.
One of these days, actual steam is going to come out of my ears.
I hope we're recording.
And we will all be impressed with ourselves when that happens.
That would
we'll
definitely
be like, wow, we
boost
actually
the audience numbers.
But
then we'll have to change your name to Steampunk Michaela.
All right, so Persona 5 Royal is a game that I'm going to talk about real quick.
It's really good, isn't it?
It's so fucking good.
It really is.
I would not play another. I put another 126, so almost 130 hours into this game. You don't do that twice unless you really, really like the damn game. And it is just really, really good feeling turn-based combat, really, really fun dungeon crawling, all wrapped up in a really cool story with really cool characters. Of course, they added a new Phantom Thief this time around, along with other new characters. They streamlined a lot of the mechanics. They definitely streamlined the platinum, which I felt conflicted about, but hey, at the end of the day, it is one of 7 platinums I earned this year, and that is a record year for me.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Look at you, just being a real gamer all over the place.
Look at that. I'm a gamer girl now.
She could be a real gamer if she tried those beat music games, you know.
Unfortunately, that's not my genre
Rhythm
I picked
games.
for 2021, so
You didn't want to keep the joke going, guys.
it will die eventually, or you guys will, one or the other. But yeah, so
No, she has a point, gentlemen. She really has a point.
but Persona 5, yeah, they added some new music. great because it's got a great soundtrack. The new semester was really fun to play because the new character was fun to get to know. She has some tragic shit. Obviously, it's Persona. She's gonna be messed up. It's a fun story. I was conflicted. She did have me thinking.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but imagine the character who's just good walking into a Persona game going, man, it's pretty nice to be in this new town. Y'all are wonderful. Oh, wait a minute. You do what? Wait, we're going into another world? That's a giant penis. Why are you fighting that giant penis?
Those are definitely still in the game, unfortunately.
Of course they are.
But yeah, so Platinum was much easier, and I liked that I could do it in one playthrough because it was a long freaking game. But the only thing I think I remember complaining about when I talked about it on the show previously was that in the prior game, Akechi was like an automatic confidant that levels up, and now you have to choose to hang out with him, and he's annoying, and I don't like him.
Right.
But he's got a lot of great benefits. But very much enjoyed the extra content. I like a lot of the updates they made. They made the game more accessible and easier to complete. It also got a little bit easier. Like, I steamrolled the end of that game. I was max 999 everything. Like, I destroyed the end of that game. It wasn't even funny.
God didn't know what was coming.
No. They made Memento super easy to grind. But you know what? Sometimes I really like being overpowered in an RPG after you put 100 hours into it. And I just want to steamroll the end of the game. So it actually made me pretty damn happy. So
yeah, no, legit, go for it.
My number 6 is a remaster that I played 20 years ago the first time. Commandos 2 Remastered is my number 6.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
It was.
I didn't even know you were playing it. I
did back
I
in.
had enough time with it to put it on your list. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I knew you played it like you talked about it on the show, but I never knew you kept going.
Yeah, no, back in January, February, I stuck with it. It's actually out on Switch now, and I'm curious to try it, just because the controls and. You just talked about putting 130 hours twice into Persona. Don't shake your head at me.
I'm going to do what I want. It's a free country.
No, this game...
This is why I'm glad she's part of the show.
I loved this game back then. I was like super giddy when I heard that they announced it. It's such a fun game. Michaela, you actually might like it with the way it plays out. You should look at it. It's on Switch.
It's a super hardcore XCOM, right?
Yes, but but a little less turn-based at times. Like, there's real-time stuff that happens as you're doing it.
Not quite Valkyria Chronicles, though, I'm guessing.
No.
Well, no, because it's not anime.
Well, I meant the real-time aspects to the strategy turn-based. Whatever.
Did you?
Whatever. No, but this is a great game. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I got it then, and yes, I may pick it up again. It may make that coveted multi-purchase list of mine.
Well,
I just pushed you onto that limited run pretty hard. I can't really judge you if you pick it up again on Switch.
Well, I mean, as someone who's never played the original, and now that it's coming out on Switch, I might actually try it, because at this point, due to the pandemic, I don't know when I'm going to be able to go to upstate New York and put my PC together with Lee. So that actually seems pretty viable for me. But if I remember correctly, actually, Jason, do you have anything else to say about Commandos?
No, that's it.
So that we are now halfway through our list.
We are.
So I reached out on Twitter and other methods to folks that have either been on the show or that I just think are fucking cool, and tried to generate interest on doing a Game of the Year list. I didn't really set any rules because we do our own shit here, so might as well, let anybody who would be interested in submitting a Game of the Year list to us do the same thing. I have several, and I'm going to go over them all right now. Starting off with El Capitan Rey Osorio from the Phoenix Overdrive Nation. His number 10, actually, honorable mention, Destiny 2 Beyond Light, and his statement on it is, yeah, he went back again. Number 10, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Stop, Viking Time, another alt history take in the Assassin's Creed universe. Number 9, Fall Guys, Ultimate Knockout. Goofy platforming battle royale that I spent more time with than I thought I would. Definitely better with friends. Number 8, Doom Eternal, Doom Guy plus blood, gore, and dead demons. What more do you need? Side note, F the stupid platforming. Number 7, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, the other Spider-Man or Spider-Person whose awesomeness shines through amazing gameplay and presentation by Insomniac. Number 6, Demon Souls, Nostalgia Factor 9000, one of the few games I hate to love and love to hate. Number 5, Streets of Rage 4. The soundtrack alone is amazing video game comfort food. Number 4, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Time Killing Simulator 2020. Number 3, Final Fantasy VII Remake, a visit with old friends in a new way. Number 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Free Range Samurai. What else is there to say? And his number 1 was The Last of Us 2. The hype was real, and the story got even more real. Also submitting lists were the other 2 triumvirate members of the Phoenix Overdrive Nation, starting with Becky Ruben Navarro. She only gave us 3, Ghost of Tsushima, Brawlhalla, and Among Us. No real statements and no real ranks. Lee Navarro, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Among Us, Ghost Recon Wildlands, and Hades. His statement on Hades is that he blames me for it, and I regret nothing. That was the Phoenix Overdrive crew. Also submitting a list was our West Coast buddy and ever-present mortal enemy of Moose in meme fashion, Alan Heinen. He submitted a top 6. Number 6, Spiritfarer, a leisurely, well-animated adventure of death and assisting those who have died to move on to the afterlife. Number 5, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. What can I say? I'm a sucker for a COD campaign. Number 4, Hades. I'm not typically a roguelike fan, but from time to time, one catches my attention. Holy hell, this one is great. Number 3, Ghost of Tsushima. The world and gameplay are phenomenal. By the end of it, I had no interest in any of the side quests like I had at the beginning of the game because it was about to overstay its welcome. Sounds way more negative than what you said about this, the couple below it on the list, Alan. Number 2, Animal Crossing New Horizons. This game is just pure joy. Yeah, it kind of is. And his number 1 is Last of Us Part 2. While I prefer the first game to Part 2, it's a worthy addition to the franchise. Ellie and Abby's story was a little long, but I didn't want to leave the world they had created. I wanted to keep exploring. 2 more lists were submitted. One by our guest from the Hades episode of our book club, T-Man. His 5. He didn't really rank them. He just gave the list to me in this order. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. And then our Remnant Stream Invader, someone I've co-opted Dark Souls 2 and Remnant with, Julian. He's a composer. You can find him at JULVZ on Twitter. He is a very wonderful individual. His 5 from this year were Doom Eternal, Outer Wilds, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Resident Evil 3 Remake. So I think I can speak for the 4 of us in thanking each and every one of you for submitting lists. And our goal is to have all of you on the show at some point in our next season. I like how Jason is just picking at himself while I say this stuff.
Number 5.
Whoa, here she comes. It's a man.
Oh, here he goes.
Yeah.
Go off, Moose. Go off.
Maneater is a lot of fun. It's a blast to play. Like, if there ever was a popcorn entertained game for this year, it would be Maneater. It's just tongue in cheek. The story is just insanity. The gameplay is a lot of fun. Swimming is cool in the game, and then just eating stuff. Just like you're swimming by a beach and you want to eat some human swimmers, just go right on up and eat them. But then it's not all. It's kind of like carrion, where it's not like you're too powerful, so you got to be careful about how many humans you eat before you start getting hunted, and then you have to like fight off shark hunters who are sent after you to kill you and do away with you. There's apex predators in the game, which you can attack and kill. There's one even like a Moby Dick version of one that's just insane to try and fight. But it's just an overall barrel of fun. I highly recommend checking it out. I believe it is $39.99, so it's $40. Probably be on sale for Christmas if it's not on sale now currently. I highly recommend checking it out and playing it. But yeah, Maneater.
Watch out, boy. She'll chew you up.
That's
Whoa,
right.
here she comes.
She's a man-eater.
Okay, thank you.
Matt,
You love it, Jason. Shut up, pun.
sorry, I'm distracted because anytime you shut your camera off, it rotates the Zoom pictures, and now my order for the list is out of order, and it annoyed me.
You need a curveball in your life, you fucking Yankee fan. My number 5 is Spider-Man Miles Morales by Insomniac
Hold on.
Games.
It doesn't work if you just do it. It's not going to move you.
Trying to mess with them. Have fun, ladies.
So yeah, my number 5, Spider-Man Miles Morales by Insomniac Games. Are we talking about this later?
I think so.
Moose, you're the only one who didn't mention it, so.
Nope. You can go now, buddy. It's
Okay.
not on my list.
So, I didn't go back. I wanted to go back to my 2018 list before or after I, solidified this one, but I didn't. But I'm pretty sure this is somewhere in the same area of my top 10 2018 list, or that the Spider-Man 2018 was. But this game is better on all counts, not only because as an adult I like the appeal of a quick game, but the way that this campaign was designed did a lot more for me than Peter Parker. And like we said a lot last episode, Miles Morales is just such a fucking wonderful character. The way he fits into this Spider-Man world where it's almost like he belongs there so much more than Peter felt like, because I mean playing and platinuming this game sort of was my impetus to go back and 100% Spider-Man 2018. And while I didn't go back and replay the campaign because who has that kind of time, I did notice a few obvious differences. Number one, Miles Morales swinging through the same New York that Peter is swinging through. Miles Morales seems to appear more at home doing it, which is odd because Peter Parker is Spider-Man since time immemorial. I feel like Miles's interaction with just the general public of New York is rooted in a more earthy way than Peter was, because Peter just seems like the most over-the-top game show host going to the grocery store and saying, yes, I would like some of your cheese, Mr. Cheese person. Like, I can't come up with anecdotes on the fly. This is why I'm an X-ray tech. Whereas Miles Morales walks into a bodega and dressed as Spider-Man, going, hey, man, how can I help? And they're like, and then they just look at him and go, oh, it's you. I'm looking for Spider-Man. And he's like, yeah, I'm here. He's like, no, not you. My cat, Spider-Man. And it's just like the fight for just general, the fight for general visibility in the community, as well as just the way that he takes things like that just in stride, which also is kind of just points the mirror at society in a lot of interesting ways. Spider-Man Miles Morales is a wonderful game, and where most open world games feel the need to be 20, 30, 40, 50 hours, you can be in and out and 100%ed in less than 10, unless you have 13 crashes like Michaela did, which, not everybody can have the same experience.
Not everyone can be as special as me. It's fine.
I mean, not we all have to earn those crashes, Michaela. But Spider-Man Miles Morales is a game that just, if I loved the swinging in 2018, I only want to swing in Miles Morales. It is so much fun. It is the freest thing. It is the freest I've ever felt in any video game. Forget flying, forget any of that. There was just something that you want to go up to the tallest building, fine, run up that building. You want to dive off, fine. You want to swing through wherever, fine. I never felt more liberated than swinging through this Manhattan and this New York. And I don't ever want to do it again without Miles Morales. If anybody else has anything else to say about this game, please go ahead.
Jason, you want to go?
I love the boss fights, and I thought they were light years ahead of the original game, because I felt the original game was a lot of do this, get the quick time event. Do this, get the quick time event. I didn't feel there was the actual, which is weird because there was plenty of combat in 2018 Spider-Man. But it's like the boss fights were like, nah, we'll just do scripted stuff. Like, you do a little here. Like, I mentioned it. The Prowler fight was just so much fun. Like, figuring out what to do, how to combat everything he had. The game felt great. Felt great on PS5 with the DualSense. I enjoyed falling with Miles. Like, if he messed up and he just stumbled and hit the ground. It was just like, there was an animation. It wasn't just like, oh, you're going to land on your feet. Like, it was just like, boom. It was shorter. it was a nice platinum in that regard, but I wouldn't have mind longer. But I thought they didn't cram it in.
This is true.
I feel they also learned from, like, I heard people like, oh, this is how it should be. Trust me, Insomniac learned from the first game. If Miles was their first game, it probably would have been just as long. And I feel they learned and took from the first game. But I thought it was a phenomenal game. I mean, I don't think I had many complaints about it. I only crashed once. So that really wasn't
brag about it, why don't you?
But to be fair, I crash at least once in every game I play. Probably because I leave the game on in rest mode all the time.
I didn't even do that.
Well, see, you should have done that, huh, Michaela?
I'm also the luckiest person when it comes to like Fallout 76. I had 2 glitches. People are like, "Oh, this is the worst game ever." I played 100 hours and I had 2 glitches, so it's not like So, I mean, it doesn't happen to everyone. It's unfortunate it does. At least you were able to finish the game. I know people who it got to the point where they're just, no, I'm not. I'm done. You persevered and got your platinum.
I earned the shit out of that platinum.
You did. You did.
But in terms of the game, real quick, the only things I'll add is I felt at the time when I played it and when I remembered it, the 2018 Spider-Man, I always felt like the combat was a little flat or simplistic. A lot of people really enjoyed it, but I always felt like something was missing, and the Venom aspect to Miles's combat filled that void for me. So I enjoyed the combat more than I did. Not that I didn't enjoy it in 2018. I enjoyed this more. It felt a little bit fuller, like that missing limb is now there. And I know a lot of people probably don't echo that sentiment, but that's how it felt for me. Obviously, the web swinging is great. I talked about how the community is great. Like, obviously, Pete's a part of his community, but to your point earlier, Matt, it's about getting accepted within that community. So it adds that extra tier to he just moved. So Miles himself is in a new community, but also he has to be accepted as the other Spider-Man, the younger Spider-Man. So it is a Bildungsroman, if you will, indulge my English majorness. It is a coming-of-age tale. And so that helps with the sense of community and the development of the environment, and it's aided by some great characters like Haley and Genki. I didn't mention her last week because I don't think she's technically a new character, but I loved Rio Morales. She's awesome. She's a great mom. I love everything they do with her story arc. They nailed that. The voice actress did a very good job. Loved everything about Rio.
I know I'm kind of interrupting, but I have to interrupt because the end of the game, after you complete the story, and he calls his mother, Miles calls his mother, and she just says,
"Nothing you could have done."
There's nothing you could have done, but like you have to remember what you love about Uncle Aaron, and Finn, and not judge their lives. It's
by their worst act.
Yeah. Just like motherfucker. I wish my parents said something close to as insightful as Rio Morales. I mean, and that also speaks to me as like, you know, what I remember about my parents growing up, but that's a different thing. But yeah, Rio Morales fucking whips.
Yes. Great. Unsung hero of that game. I loved Rio. But my main thing about Miles that really solidified it and let me put it higher than my personal experience with the game because of the crashes that just got really frustrating. Those crashes were not able to taint how well the ending of the story resonated for me. Because usually with a lot of superhero stuff, the story is just like there, or it's a typical superhero narrative, or it's just a fun ride. Or
I win because I'm the good guy.
Yeah, this one actually was an emotional note that rang out for me. And Rio is a big part of that, but the sense of community is a big part of that. Everything that happens with Miles and Finn at the end, obviously is the main star of that. But I felt for such a short game, they made such effective use of narrative and hit a very high but also very low note at the end. Very well executed, timely narrative there. So yeah. Those are my thoughts on Miles.
If we don't get Venom next game, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do.
They teased it twice.
Yeah.
Better include it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I thought they were getting Green Goblin.
He's going to be the villain next time.
Yeah.
Because we already did Doc Ock.
Harry could be Venom. And then the next game has Carnage.
But I thought Harry was the Green Goblin.
Doesn't he?
But his dad is also the Green Goblin.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be because Harry's like in a test tube, low key, right?
Yeah,
right. And the original Spider-Man.
Now hang on, Jason. Okay, so I need to. I've had one beer, so I'm a little drunk. So we need to reconcile something. I'm a lightweight. What do you want, Michaela?
I'm a little girl, and I can drink better than that. Probably,
but you also grew up in Massachusetts.
Excuse you? No, I didn't. I grew up in Rhode Island, sir.
Basically the same thing.
Do you want a shovel, sir? I hope you dig that hole faster.
I have a tarp in my trunk.
Yes. Wait, why did you
got the line?
So the reason
got the line.
Yes.
So I need to retcon some things. So, because you know the comics, right, Jason?
Hmm.
I only know the movies. So James
So
Franco.
erase that from your brain.
Yes.
I'm not gonna read 50 years of Spider-Man comics. Get over yourself. So James Franco played the Green Goblin. Yes or no?
Yes.
Well, Willem Dafoe played the Green Goblin.
Willem Dafoe played the Green Goblin first.
Sure.
Yes.
James Franco. So in the
Was
comics
Harry,
too,
yeah. So.
Harry Osborn takes over the Green Goblin after his dad,
Bites
for
people.
lack of a better word, dies.
Sure.
We won't go into that.
Right.
He
Yeah.
actually
Because I
dies.
remember Spider-Man 2 more than I
But
remember
I
Spider-Man
think
1.
I think what Insomniac's doing, and I think they have the license to, they're creating their own original plot
They are.
loosely based on. And if you remember, not the end of Miles, because Miles, it wasn't clear, but the end of 2018's, Harry's clearly, they're experimenting with the Venom symbiote. That's because they showed a clearer thing in the tank.
That I wouldn't know.
In the Miles one,
Because
you
all
just
I
see
saw
the
was
black,
Green Goblin.
Yeah,
Oh,
Miles, you
'cause-
have Harry's perspective. You're looking at
and you don't
his
you just
dad.
see the black stuff, but you can't tell. But in the 2018 one, it's clearly alluding to Venom of some kind.
You could.
Okay.
My thinking is we haven't even had Green Goblin yet, so father son can both be villains because you wouldn't have
Right.
Harry as the Green Goblin if his dad hasn't kicked the bucket, died, whatever.
Venom's
Good.
a good guy. He starts out as
yeah.
bad, but he eventually
Depends on how they go with it.
Yeah,
though.
he
They
becomes
could-
good, so they could do something like that.
So I guess
So-
my summation is ¿Por qué no los dos? You can have both villains in next game with two different characters.
You could, because
So
you also have Miles and Peter if they're both.
so basically the next big game they do will not have the Sinister Six. You'll have Rhino as the first fight because they'll find a way to do that, and then it'll be Osborn Senior as the Green Goblin and Harry as Venom to start.
You could.
And then somehow Screwball's gonna come back and be fucking annoying. The Black Cat will probably be around somewhere.
They've set her up as a potential anti-hero, so
Yeah. Well, so going back to the DLC for Spider-Man 2018, notice some interesting things. I don't know if y'all played this at all, but they basically set up this game in a lot of weird ways because I don't remember the very first DLC because I played that when it came out, but the second one for the City That Never Sleeps, I think it was called Turf Wars or Turf Warfare.
Yes, Turf
Wars.
Where you're going against Hammerhead.
Right.
There's a lot of like Miles calling you going, hey, ready to do some spider training? He's like, yo, I can't right now. And then in the third game, which is the third DLC, which is basically like a trilogy in a sense, you have Sable and her private security army going up against Hammerhead because Hammerhead has stolen shit from her and she's trying to build her stuff to save her people in Simcaria. I think that's how you say it. But that sets up the vacation for Peter and MJ in this game. So part of me wants to say anybody that paid attention to those three things was basically set up for this game. But going back to it, I was like, wow, this is kind of brilliant. But the final thing that kind of made me completely redeemed me going back was they had their own anime suit a la Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse. A la his costume from Into the Spider-Verse. They had this spider ninja suit that ultimately is kind of stupid as shit, but very much in the way the old animation suit stood out from the environment. This one stands out, and it kind of just it points directly at the Into the Spider-Verse suit as a thing that they were definitely thinking about. Spider-Man Miles Morales rules. Sorry, I detoured us a lot.
Oh, it's all right. Michaela, number five.
5. So this one would potentially be maybe one spot higher if I had played more of it, but I have not beaten it yet. Not for lack of trying, but for lack of being here. Demon Souls remake. Yes, sir.
We're going to talk about this later.
We're gonna. Okay, interesting.
Jason.
Well, it's going to be on your list, Matt?
Yep.
That's
Oh,
what talking about this later means.
No, I didn't know if he meant.
After the show. Yeah.
I thought he meant never mind. Number 5 for me, another remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it, Tony Hawk, Pro Skater.
All right. Nice.
Fuck yes.
They just did it. The original Tony Hawk, I was a freshman in college, and it's just such a great game. Soundtrack was great. I still listen to some of the music today, and when they announced this, I was like,
He was
over the moon, and it really delivered in every way. It was just phenomenal, both games. Something I'll keep revisiting. Just do another 2-minute run here in the warehouse. Do this or this. It's such a good game. Better be.
I couldn't resist.
I do want to try it on PS5. Not that the load times were an issue, but it'd be fun to load it up more with the triggers and try to see how it feels. So
I'm really worried about the haptics on the DualSense. I'm really worried that a lot of people aren't going to really take advantage of it.
I think more people will take advantage of the haptics than they will the triggers.
yeah, I think shooters will take more advantage of the triggers than anyone else because it'd be hard to work it in. But Moose, number 4.
My number 4 is a little indie called Scourgebringer.
Woo!
So it is I want to say a roguelite. Man, we're quite the fans of this genre. But
No idea what you're talking about.
Never heard of it.
No clue.
What the fuck is a roguelike, and how dare you bring it up in this context, sir?
So
right, it's a roguelite.
Right, yeah, because it's a lot like you can still upgrade. It's not just like rogue games are just like you die and that's it, and you completely start from scratch.
True.
This you definitely
You kind of have to die to upgrade anyway.
Yes, you do have a point there. Yeah, it's part of the cycle. So
Nazaquenya.
basically, aliens show up on Earth, and there's something there just messing things up, and people go in to try and figure out what's going on and don't make it out. You're one of the chosen ones to go in, and it's just basically exploring, and it's kind of like other roguelites where it's like there's a shop vendor you can find somewhere, there's a mini boss before you get to the main boss, there's a main boss, there's I liked the action in the game because the controls are very fluid. So you have like your typical light attack, heavy attack, and then you have a dash move. And so you can just zip around the level all you want, as fast as you want, and move yourself around. You can hold on to the walls to try and like hide from enemies if you know they're going to shoot. Eventually, like Jason was saying, there's upgrades. So when you beat the mini boss, you earn a certain kind of upgrade, and if you die, you take it back to your level and level it up. If you obviously beat the boss, you'll get more of those and can level up faster. Or you could be like me and eventually get to the point where you have to fight the mini boss so much that that's how you level up. Or there's also a point in the game where I can't remember if he's a vendor or not, or if he's one of the guys that helps you from the beginning of the game, just shows up at the beginning of the game and just drops a bunch of power-ups for you. And I'm like...
Yeah, he's randomized.
Oh, yeah, okay, I thought so. And so I was just like, I feel bad. I feel really bad about this. But I do want to say, like, playing through it, because of Hades, I didn't play it as much as I would have to really grasp the combat and spend as much time getting and understanding the movement. Much like I feel with Hades, where I felt being too aggressive is detrimental to your progression in the game. I kind of feel the same with this, where you kind of want to hold back a little bit and not zip around the level like I was doing. So I'm looking forward to giving it more time and moving further in the game. Also, it's a pretty game. The game's got a great color scheme. It's pixel art, which I love to death. It stands the test of time. And the music is pretty good in it as well. So I highly recommend checking out Scourgebringer if you are looking for an indie. It's also like a kind of like Hades, or it's a good, quick drop in, drop out if you're looking for something to play for like 5 minutes while you're waiting for something to be done or to do something. You know, it's a nice.
It always turns into, I have one run. I could take 5 minutes. 25 minutes later, you're like, shit.
Yeah.
Like that remnant run, Matt, on Survivor.
Oh,
we'll do
God.
one more boss.
One more, and then if we don't get it this time, I'm going to bed. And we get 4 fucking bosses.
I will say about Scourgebringer, I played it in early access and I beat it. But I bought the Play Asia Signature Edition, the physical. So I'm going to revisit it so I can play the whole game. Because when I mean, technically I could just re-download on Steam. But when I had played it, it was only two levels. But I think someone mentioned before about the floor is lava. That's kind of how Scourgebringer plays, though. Like you benefit the longer you're juggling in the air with the main character. Like the more time you spend like zipping around, like you get stronger and stronger, and it's kind of a cool feature that they have. But yeah. it's a phenomenal game.
Jason pointed
also
out.
There's I don't know if they had it in the Switch version, but on the Steam version, when you first load up the game and that long-ass user agreement that you're supposed to agree to, like, don't copy this, don't sell it.
Your blood type will be sold to Korean gangsters.
So I'm not saying this to brag, but I did review the early access. But there is a pizza recipe in the user agreement. It's at the top of the user agreement. If you read it, it's literally a recipe with full ingredients and instructions.
Wait, what?
There is a pizza recipe.
Well, fuck, now I gotta. Why didn't you tell me that? I probably would have bought this game already and said, "Hey, Reba, we gotta make this pizza."
Probably because you were playing the early access version. That's probably why they had the.
It might. I mean, it might still be in the game. I'll have to look next time. I'll install it after, and I'll keep you guys posted.
Please.
But I did want to say, like, Jason mentioned it, and I was like, okay, well, he's like, I'm like, I got enough to play. He's like, there's a demo. I downloaded the demo. Played the demo for like 2 minutes, instantly deleted it, and went out and bought the game. That's how much I was enjoying it.
And then went to our Facebook chat and said, "Fuck you, Jason Marshall."
Yes, I did.
I'm sorry. You have to add the end of the story.
You knew what it was about.
Yeah, and then I'm sitting here going, "Wait, what did he do now?"
He knew, but yeah,
I did. I was like, I probably told him buy something, and he did, and he's blaming me. Matt, number 4.
Are we to my number 4 already? Jeez, I'm going through this list. My number 4 is
point of the show.
This fucking guy. My number 4 is Moon, a remix RPG adventure.
Nice.
Kind of developed a love for the. Well, I've started and developed an intense love for this game in the past few weeks. This game is fucking amazing. Originally released in 1997 in Japan for PlayStation 1. Lovedelic brought it. People from Lovedelic, I forget who brought it along to the West this year. Came out in August. And I heard folks talk about it. They're like saying, yeah, so I started playing Moon. And the one thing that super intrigued me about it was that everybody seemed just completely confounded by it. originally. So I'm like, I'm going to go look at this. So I immediately started poking around this world and finding things and figuring out what to do. I'm not really saying this to be like to seem like some sort of super sleuth, but at the beginning of the game, you start out in a very Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest type game, and for about an hour, you're essentially doing a cutscene. But it's not like some Hideo Kojima bullshit. It's actually, you're watching progress happen. At the end of it, once you see the Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest hero sort of get to the final boss and be ready to win, your mother you see a prompt from off screen saying, "Hey, quit playing video games and go to sleep." And then it cuts to a little boy sitting in front of a TV, very much how we all probably did, except for Michaela in the 90s.
No, I was not a little boy in the 90s.
No, you were not a little boy in the 90s. That's why I said except you. But where you're sitting way too close to the TV and it's way past your bedtime and you're still just controller in hand, engrossed in whatever game you're playing. Little boy gets up, goes to bed, and then all of a sudden the TV starts staticking. Little boy wakes up, comes back to the TV, gets sucked into the game, and he ends up in Moon World. You're told that your currency here is going to be love. That is kind of a misnomer because what keeps you alive is love. And the more, they're basically all fetch quests, and we could talk about the problems with RPGs and fetch quests till we're all blue in the face. But the fetch quests in this game extend your ability to stay alive. If you let the timer run out, you're dead. Game over. You have the option of starting where you last saved, and where you last saved was when you went to sleep. This game is endlessly fascinating, not only by what I've played in 2020, but thinking about what I would have played back then. And I still, I think, as I said a few episodes ago, I would much rather have had this game at that particular time when I was still, I'd been playing games for a while at that point, but I was definitely a gamer, but I was not a smart gamer. I was just playing kind of what my friends were playing, and every so often I would deviate from that. But if I had had this game in 1997, it would have kind of transformed my worldview in terms of games. And the fact that we got it now didn't really diminish that. And maybe I'm probably better equipped to receive it now than I would have been then. I don't know. We could play the hypothetical game till the cows come home. But this game is special, and the characters that you speak to are wonderful. Everything feels like honestly a Square Enix RPG or a Tales RPG, to the point where everything feels well filled out, well lived in, and well realized. This game is cool as shit, and the music is wonderful. I really love the visual aesthetic of it, which is very much the haphazard slapdash found art animation style of the Monty Python show and movies, where all of a sudden it would be like an old painting being animated in whatever way, or like they take a photo from 100 years ago of a woman and make her skirt puff out in several different ways, and all of a sudden you figure out that's not a woman, it's a man controlling a woman as a mech, and then they get her up and walk off screen for some absurdist purpose. It's really fucking cool. It's got a tremendous style about it, and I know that a lot of this comes with taking a bit more time with it than is probably warranted for most games, but I'm glad I spent that time. And that's why it's my number 4.
Kayla?
My number 4 is Ghost, which
Woo!
I feel like some people haven't mentioned yet. Forget who mentioned it.
Is it
already.
lower, Matt?
It was my number 9.
Oh, right.
And Jason
Is
is
it
not
on-
in your top 10?
No, it is. It's my number 4.
Oh, look at that. We tied.
And Moose, it's not in your top 10?
Nope.
Okay,
No, I saw that coming.
let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima then.
You could start since you're up first anyway.
Oh, me? Ghost. Let's see. So Ghost of Tsushima is a special game for me in that it was the first game announcement I covered when I joined Obelisk. It was announced like within a month of me starting up with the site. It wasn't the first game I covered. I wrote about Lost Sphere first, but it was the first announcement I covered at Paris Games Week. And of course, I was immediately intrigued. I was very much in a samurai sort of mood with Neo being that year, but this was a very different vibe. It's a more, while it's not realistic, it is more of a historic fiction than the fantasy you get with Neo. And I was immediately taken in by the cinematic quality. Like last episode, we talked about the E3 2018 fight that became the end of Masako's side quest. It's one of the first snippets of gameplay we got to see with the red leaves everywhere. This game was just extra from out the gate. It is gorgeous. The music is amazing. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's one of my top open world designs because you need to sell me on open world. Like a lot of people use linear like a bad word. You need to sell me on open world and justify the space you are using and use it effectively for me to say, yes, you did this good. And I think Ghost's world was just a blast to explore. I spent a good 20 hours in Act 1 because I was just doing whatever. I was running around the world. I was pursuing side quests. I wasn't progressing the main story, which is almost unheard of for how I play games. I never spend 20 hours in like the first of 3 acts in a game like that. And then, of course, when you get to Act 2, I talked about this as one of my favorite moments. The tone of the story completely changes and it turns on a dime, and it's very impactful. Watching your horse die always sucks in a video game, but they did it, and they did everything going on with his uncle. And of course, we talked about Patrick Gallagher being a very good villain in this game. It was a very good cast for this game of characters that really make. I think it is the characters that make this game. The world and the setting is there, and it would be like 9/10 of the way there on that alone. That last stretch for me comes from the characters. I also did enjoy the gameplay. I know a lot of people don't like that it doesn't have a lock-on. I wish there was a lock-on in an accessibility mode so that everyone can enjoy this game. That is the one thing I did say in my review. But I do think that once you learn the combat without a lock-on, it is made the way it's made intentionally. And it felt very good and very badass. We talked about standoffs being freaking cool. And I was all over that photo mode, especially in standoffs with like the slow-mo blood everywhere. It was great. Also, that photo mode though, holy crap.
Right.
You gave me a photo mode that moves and plays music and you expect me to play the game? No, I'm going to play photo mode for like 20 hours.
Right.
So yeah, it was everything that I wanted it to be from the moment I saw it in 2017, even though I didn't know what I wanted, basically. It was very cool, and I think they did a fantastic job, a totally new look for Sucker Punch, and very impressive to open and close the generation for PS4.
Yeah.
Everything about this game was satisfying. Combat felt good. Exploration. I think so. I'll touch on this now because I know the three of you will talk about it shortly. What Hades did for storytelling in a roguelike, which is a rarity. Not that it doesn't happen. I felt Ghost did with a open world piece of candy map type game. Like generally for me, if I play a game like that, which I love crossing off everything, I don't give a shit about the story. Halfway through, 20 hours in, I've cleared 70% of the map, and I'm like, oh, we were supposed to do this in the story. I forgot. But Ghost kept, it kind of had that gating in place where you can only do so much, but you had to advance the story to then further unlock. Like you didn't get the longbow until you talked to your old
Master.
That was the word I was looking for.
Or master or teacher, but
Right. But you didn't get it till like, and I got it. So, like I was talking to Jeff about it. He was like, "Oh, you get the longbow and you do this." I'm like, "Longbow? Like 15 hours in. When the hell do you get it?" Apparently, I went a roundabout way, and it was like, "Oh, now I could do it." I'm like, and then the mission to do it, obviously, for me was so much easier because I was like, "Oh, I'm this level," and you could have done it like so much earlier. But the story was great. The voice acting was phenomenal. I didn't take a lot of pictures, but I usually don't. But I did stop a number of times to look. Like I was more impressed with the draw distance. Like you could be on a cliff and see like boats,
everything.
like super far away. And I did like that. I mentioned like a piece of candy type map. It didn't feel like that though. You can get on the horse and run and not get distracted necessarily. And the traversal felt good in that. Like you could take your horse to the next point and not be like, oh, quick, let me stop here. Because it didn't feel like it was crowded. But the map didn't feel massive. It was like a happy medium.
I want to jump in real quick because I forgot to mention, I love the way they did exploration in this game with things like the guiding wind and the yellow birds and stuff like that, because you don't need to have a mini map. You don't need to be constantly popping a map open. You're not dropping waypoints and chasing a compass at the top of your screen. There's very minimal HUD. And so that exploration felt great because it's environmental factors pointing you towards your goals. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And as Michaela mentioned and Matt's mentioned, the standoffs are cool as shit.
Fuck yes, they are. Well, and see, and I think that leads into the one flaw in this game, or because the story conceit is Jin becomes the ghost of Tsushima, using ways that his uncle and others of the tradition, as it were, would deem reprehensible. Now the idea, and I think the idea from Sucker Punch's point of view was that was what the player would want to do to get through everything super quick. Unfortunately, they made all of the stuff that Jin's uncle and others of the tradition would find honorable super fun. Because what did they find honorable? Fighting someone eye to eye, staring a man in the face as you kill him. So naturally, like they made the walking into an outpost, raising your sword and going, "Who wants a piece?" the most fun shit in the game. And then you see 7 people come up, and you take 5 out within not even 30 seconds, probably like less than 10. But still, both aspects of that had their pros, cons, pluses, minuses. And while me personally, I love just the idea of going along whatever path I was on, and then all of a sudden seeing that standoff icon. It didn't matter where everybody else was in relation to me. I was doing that fight, and I was killing all of those people before I moved on. So maybe I'm just a murderer by nature. I don't know. And I said this in our Ghost of Tsushima episode. I did have a couple of problems, especially with like the haikus. I know that in terms of like historical relevance, they weren't of the time, but I also feel like they could have just been better. But other than that, you want a popcorn game in the way that in a way better than Jedi Fallen Order was in 2019. Ghost of Tsushima is your answer.
I agree with you on the haiku, but some people liked it. But like,
Yeah, some people did. Some people
like
did.
I liked the postcards in Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't mind the sound thing with your uncle, and some people hated that. I think
Yeah.
I don't think
Those,
the
though, they're both tied to the
collectibles.
story, whereas the
Right.
haiku kind of don't.
Yeah.
But to quickly expand on your point, Matt, it would have been cool if you had a choice. I liked how they led you into Jin didn't want to do the shady, sneaky, underhanded shit, but eventually he does. But it
Mhm.
would have been cool if you could have chose, no, I'm not doing this, and it completely like you don't have an ally. Like
Yeah.
I know people would have been like upset, like, oh, it's too long of a game, you're locking me out of something. But it would have been cool to be given that choice because they made it seem like you had more choices story wise, but in a way you had the one choice at the end of the game. But other than that,
Yeah.
you didn't really have a choice. You kind of played it out, and they basically justified the choice they wanted you to make.
Mm-hmm.
But they made it seem like you were choosing. So I think it would have
Yeah.
been cool to have that, like, not like infamous good bad, but like, no, I'm not doing darts. I'm not doing
I
the
mean, it turns it
stealthy.
into almost Dishonored,
Yeah.
where and that become that ultimately, you see those choices pan out, or if you even try and picture it, it turns it into a different game. But
Yeah, and to be honest, as someone who goes for trophies, I probably would have been annoyed. As much as I enjoyed Ghost, to play that a second time, it's not, it doesn't move fast enough. I'm like,
no,
no, I ain't doing a second playthrough.
I mean, and I spent like Michaela spent a lot of time in photo mode. I spent a lot of time making videos in this. Like I know I had an ambitious idea for our game club where I would just I sent you a ton of just videos of me actually going in and just beating the shit out of stuff because everything that I did combat wise, it made me feel fucking cool. And I know that Nate Fox and the team at Sucker Punch got their adequate level of shit aimed at them because at the outset of the announcement, it seemed like a bunch of people taking on the idea of Kurosawa as a filmmaker, and I feel like it was adequate and deserved. However, this wasn't Team Ninja aiming at historical mindfuckery the way that and it wasn't nearly as successful at trying or doing that as the first Neo was. Two people I follow on Twitter, Dia Lucina from Paste and Jackson from Abnormal Mapping, like they went diatribe after diatribe on this game versus Neo, and ultimately, like I think ultimately on some level they are correct. This is kind of just whitewash samurai stuff without all of the things that come with samurai stuff. But it's also a game. I think that all of that deserves to be looked at on some level. However, just like Neo in 2017, I still had fun with Ghost of Tsushima in 2020.
Number 3, Moose.
My number 3 is Vigil, The Longest Night. So I I found this game. Well, Jason, I think you pointed out to me another one. You pointed out, perhaps. Uh, and then I watched a friend of mine who streams indie games. I watched him start playing it, and we also got on the conversation because there's a Salt and Sanctuary mission in it with some content from that game, which is an amazing game. But it's a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania style. I don't even know if I'd want to call it a Souls game because it plays differently. Like there's bosses like Souls, the combat. Like I think 2D side-scrolling like games that want to be like Souls games do a good job of allowing you to like dodge through the enemies. Like that's the mechanic instead of like rolling out of the way, because you can't really roll to the side because it's, you know, you're looking at the side scrolling. So they do rolling through enemies. They do a good job with it, and it's got a really cool style to it. It like as I've played more of it, it's kind of got some Bloodborne vibes to it, story wise as well as look. But Matt and I had the issue, and Jason might experience later because I know he mentioned he just picked it up, or showed he just picked it up before the show. Crashing issues with the game. What would happen was the game, you're playing it, you'd save, and then it would crash, and your save would be gone. And so Matt had a worse problem with that than I did, because he replayed like the first 4 bosses like a couple of times, and then and would lose it. I got like once or twice and was like, all right, I'm going to take a break. So they fixed it, but they fixed the deletion of your save after it crashes, but they didn't fix the crashing problem. So it crashed on me twice yesterday and twice today, but when I reloaded, the save was still there. So I was like, okay, maybe in the next patch.
Baby steps. I'll take that.
I said that's what I said. I was like, I will take the not deleting my save.
Yeah.
I can keep playing.
Games are hard, you know.
Yeah.
Let's just acknowledge that.
I can understand, like, I understand from multiple statements and multiple people's just talking about the hell of patching something, and you fix one issue and that patch breaks something else. So trying to like make sure everything is smooth as silk can be a headache and a half. But the gameplay is really cool. You get a sword. You could have a sword, dagger, halberd, and /axe, or a bow. And so you can like level those up and pick what you want to go with. And you can have an alternate weapon, kind of like Bloodborne or Souls, where you could have an alternate weapon equipped to you. I'm basically running just sword right now. And so I'm putting all my skill points into that. You have leveling like Dark Souls. Actually, you earn, quote unquote, the souls, and then you get the level, but you don't really lose anything when you die. So that's where I'm saying it's kind of like Souls-like, but it's not, because when you die,
this is definitely more Castlevania.
Yeah, you just reload from the last save. Mm-hmm. So you don't lose like your souls. You don't have to go get your souls. Like in Bloodborne, kill an enemy to get your souls back, or like Blasphemous, which was really awesome, where you had to like protect your guilt level or your sin level, whatever you want to call it. So that, I think, is where the comparison kind of ends. But the bosses are fun. The combat is a lot of fun. It's interesting how you unlock stuff as you level, because I was like, Jason was talking about the controls, and he's like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know. I remapped them all. Like, I remapped all the controls to match kind of like a Bloodborne / Salt and Sanctuary kind of layout. And when I was playing, I'm like, there's no heavy attack. I'm like, why do I not have a heavy attack? Oh, you have to level in the sword to get the heavy attack. And I was like, okay, like that's kind of weird, but that's kind of cool. Like they make you work for it.
It was like Neo, how you had to level into the parry.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then like they have owl statues instead of bonfires, so you can save. You can teleport between the statues, which was really nice. The characters in the game are interesting. Like I find it kind of felt like a little weirded out by some of them, but all in all, like they did some really good writing with the story. I noticed. I was talking to Jason about it. One of the guy that I watch normally stream, Civicero, he was struggling with this one boss multiple times. Like it took him like a while, and I like one shot at the boss. And Jason's like, "Well, are you playing on hard?" And I was like, "I forgot there was like difficulty to the game. So it's not just like Souls where you go in and it's a set difficulty." So I was like, maybe I'll bump up the difficulty and see how I fare. But then I also realized you can become OP in the game. Like if you spend like a half hour. Actually, I was doing it not really to farm. I was just doing it to learn the controls, the mechanics of the game. I was just like running around, going through a loop, killing enemies, and I was like level 20, and I was like just like using the heavy attacks to dodge through enemies and get through a lot of attacks. And so that's the main reason why I'd probably bump up the difficulty, is to have a little more of a challenge. But I highly recommend it. It's a really good looking game. The bosses are cool. The exploration's fun as hell. The soundtrack's good. And yeah, it's an indie game. Indie games are the best. They're the best.
Word.
On a related note, please sign my change.org petition that all similar games have the same control schemes forever. So if you're a side scroller, you control one way. If you're a shooter, because the shit's ridiculous. I don't
You
need.
can change your controls.
Fucking Halo
So
Combat
you can
Evolved
remap.
over here.
Every
remap.
game should be built to remap.
Yes,
So you
I
can
agree.
fix it yourself.
I no, I appreciate a remap, but I just don't understand some of these developers. You could see where they're inspired by. Why would you make your controls something so ass backwards then? If you're clearly like, I was inspired by Mega Man, so I made this side scroller, but I'm gonna make a trigger button jump. What?
Right.
The
Why?
fuck?
Why is the trigger button
doing?
Ghost of Tsushima, that wasn't R2 the interact.
Yep.
Yes.
That messed me. I remember I slashed my horse by accident at one point because I was trying to get on it.
You know what's even worse? Division to Ghost Recon. Same
Oh, God,
fucking
yes.
company.
Yes. Division, circle is to vault over obstacles, and X is to get into cover. Circle is to duck down behind cover in Wildlands. So you're like trying
Fucking
to get
Tom Clancy couldn't
You're
even keep
like-
his universe straight. What the
I'm like,
hell?
could somebody smack somebody? Now,
Fucking-
granted, Wildlands is not like a cover-based shooter, because you're
But
not like Gears of
You
War.
have the same function, so
Yeah, it's
you
the
should
same
have the same
function.
layout.
Yeah, it should have the same. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. The controls should be similar. I think it's the point where developers just get so tired of like everybody's controls are the same. We want to be different, and they just go off the rails and become too different.
Well, we
Or
might
the
have
frame of reference is different.
we might want to just take the chance to just marvel that Ubisoft is really not trying to do the same thing over and over and over again, because their option is to switch buttons on their players.
Yeah.
Oh.
Matt, number 3.
Number 3 for me is a debut game by Kaizen Gameworks, Paradise Killer. Now, this is a whodunit, very much in the manner of Knives Out from last year or the year before. I don't remember. But it's also framed as a walking simulator game. No, it is not, as many gamers other than myself would say, as boring as Everybody's Gone to the Rapture from a few years ago, or Dear Esther, or What Remains of Edith Finch, because I know a lot of people who have said those games were boring as shit. But to me personally, like, those are some of those have provided some interesting as hell experiences. The player is the detective who has been in exile for 3 million days, named Lady Love Dies. I love the world of this game. It is a neon-drenched Technicolor splendor of an island called Paradise 24. The reason it's called Paradise 24 is because the island has been remade 24 times in the God's pursuit of perfection. The gods are the people that you predominantly interact with, but also there's a citizen population that exists below the gods. Some weird classes stuff happens, but also like some of these gods have been murdered, and it is the job of Lady Love Dice to figure out who done it. Now, through talking to all of these people, you find different motivations, different reasons, and almost anybody could have fucking done it. And while, yes, there is a true ending, because there's a moment that I found in my playthrough where I was like, oh, this really just sort of kicked the door down on the mystery you're solving, but then opened up about 17 other doors and said, hey, there's all this other shit that you ain't even been thinking about just yet. Well, you find that one of the ex-council, so the council of this island are the people that are the gods that have been murdered. One of the ex-council persons committed suicide after having 2 kids, having their birth certificates erased, and the person he had a kid with kept one of those kids alive, and you find that kid, and then all of a sudden it points to a whole just mind fuck of psychological thriller shit. And just as much as that particular moment solidified everything that led up to it as being some of my favorite shit in video games in a very long time, I find myself going back to it over and over and over again and thinking, like, there's like all this unexplored space that if Kaizen GameWorks explored it, it just turns this into a different story, which makes me glad they didn't do it. I sort of like having the headcanon, or at least the headcanon conversation. This game fucking rules, y'all. The soundtrack was one of my favorites of the year. It's a modern interpretation of late 70s, early 80s Japanese city pop without lyrics. It is fantastic. It is absolute style incarnate. It's probably the most stylish game I've played since Persona 5. And I'm going to stop myself now because I could just go on some acid trip tirade for about, I don't know how long. So my number 3 is Paradise Killer, and y'all should play it. It's on PC and Switch. Play it.
Michaela?
No acid trip tirade yet for me here, because I know we're not going to talk about this one, but my number 3 is Hades.
All right.
I know that will be later.
How the fuck is it that low?
Dude, do you know what I played this year? Can you guess what 2 are left? I think you can.
I can.
I'm
pretty sure I guessed the right order.
Number 3 for me is Warcraft Shadowlands.
Boo! Old game's old. No, I'm kidding.
I discovered when I went back to Warcraft this year that I don't have to raid, and I can enjoy the game on a whole new level.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
There's just so much to do. Like, granted, when I came back in March or February, I had 3 expansions to catch up on. But not raiding and being on that strict schedule, there's like so much shit to do, like achievement hunting and all this, that I really enjoyed it. And I'm 2 weeks into Shadowlands, and I've barely cracked the new stuff that came out. And I'm not even concerned about the raid that starts tomorrow. Like, there's so much stuff I could do solo that I don't like. It's weird. It's an MMO, and I'm like, I don't need any of you motherfuckers. Leave me alone.
Well, they did a great thing, like way back, like Mists of Pandora, where they started to realize that players who started with WoW were getting older and starting families and having kids and couldn't dedicate like 4 or 5 hours a day after work to raiding to be able to, you know, play the game. And so they started creating the heroics and the 14 or the 15 man and the 20 man raids and the 5 man raids. And so it's slowly been a progression to where, like you said, it could become a single play. Like, you don't need anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they've added looking for raids, so you can basically pug the raids. But what's interesting, I stopped because I didn't want to put a commitment on. No, I have to play Tuesday night. I have to play Thursday night. I have to play I didn't want that. But what's funny is now I have the time if I wanted to raid, but I don't because I want to play other games or do other things. Like before it was, I don't want to commit to this because I don't know. But now it's like, no, I have the time, but I don't really want to. There's plenty to do, and I'm not going to worry about, I have to be on at 8 o'clock tonight. But did I do all the stuff I needed to be on for 8 o'clock? Like, so it's just, it's really nice. And like, it's a new expansion. So I'm enjoying that. And it's just, it's so cool. And like, but like, I could play 3 days in a row and then not play for 4 or 5 days and be like, okay. Yeah. Back when I was playing, when I first started, it was like, if I missed a day, it was like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? Can I get on before the daily reset?
My clan is going to kick me out.
Daily reset. Oh my God.
Now it's like, I missed it, like, whatever. I mean, they have like holiday events that have like certain pets or mounts. Like, sure, you have to be on, but they usually last a week only. And then it's like another month and nothing. So it's like, all right. But that is my number 3. World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Number 2, Moose. Oh, you have 2.
Number 2. God, if I could freaking get back to my list. Animal Crossing. So I got sucked into Animal Crossing much like Matt did. It was just like, what is this? What is going on with this? That I agree, the Doom Eternal crossover marketing campaign that wasn't really a marketing campaign per se.
It was a meme.
Was going on.
But it was one of the most beautiful unifications of gamers in the history of gaming. Like it was wonderful to watch.
Yes, it was. Like, yeah, there was no hate, no like, don't you dare associate me with your game. But you know what I mean? It was just, it was.
I feel like in the 90s, it would be like, people who play Animal Crossing are hardcore gamers.
Yeah.
We play Doom.
Yeah, I could agree.
Instead,
with that.
you had that Futurama with Isabel and Doom Guy inserted, where Isabella goes tonight at 11, and then Doom Guy goes Doom. Like it was just perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, it was. It was also very like the perfect game for the shit year that is 2020. So it came out like right around the pandemic. Start of it,
like a week or 2 in, something like that.
Yeah, a week or 2
for the
in,
US.
For the US, it dropped, and it was like Switches were hard to buy. People were buying Animal Crossing like crazy. It sold 30 million units, I think,
something like that.
Yeah,
but up to today, it's sold like 30 million, maybe probably more than that. That's an insane amount for a game that came out in March, April, May, June, July.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 9 months. In 9 months, it sold 30 million units. So it's very chill. It's a very chill game. Much like Jason was treating WoW, I could just log in, do what I wanted to do for the day. If I missed it, I missed it. If I didn't, I got my stuff done and worked towards a goal. And technically, it took me a while to beat the game. but I got there, you know, and I sold some turnips. I bought some turnips. I sold some turnips. You know, ran around in my tracksuit and sunglasses. You know, just slinging them turnips.
Looking like an Eastern European gangster.
It was a good time. Now there's plenty of stuff like I can see gamers. I want to say like the game I can see is aimed towards kid friendly, which is not a problem. But I also can see like how hardcore fans of the series and gamers of the series want like more customization. They want more accessibility. They want more options for the game. And I can see where they want that, but I could also see why Nintendo hasn't given it to them, just because it makes it harder for people of a younger age to understand how that works inside of a game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like I'm mainly talking about like your inventory, your crafting one thing at a time at the crafting station. Like it just makes sense for someone who's younger. My 5-year-old, 6-year-old niece plays it and has a blast playing it, you know. So like someone who's like 4 or 5 years old just getting into games and their parents are like, here, play Animal Crossing. Like they can grasp that and understand that, and it's not pushing the boundaries too much. You know what I mean? Whereas in like me, I'd want to just be like, I want to make 16 freaking iron chairs so that I could sell them real quick because they're the hot item of the day.
Yeah.
You know, at Nook's Cranny.
I'm here to maximize profits, Nook. What the hell?
Right. I think the seasonal events are pretty cool. You have
except for Bunny Day. Bunny Day was a fucking horror show.
I missed Bunny Day because I bought it.
Be thankful.
I bought it like maybe a week or two after Easter happened. So I actually, like the Thanksgiving one was pretty cool. I like the seasons. Like summer was cool, fall was pretty interesting, and I think adding the extra stuff like that is nice. They have quote unquote seasonal updates. They added swimming, so you could swim around your island, and then so you could find creatures. I thought it was a lot of fun digging up the fossils and like fleshing out like the museum. The museum's really cool just to like walk through and just like look at the stuff. And so my main goal was just to get to the end, and spoiler alert, you got to have KK Slider. You have to have your island be good enough for KK Slider to come perform a concert, and then credits roll. So I got
beautiful credit sequence too. It really is.
It is, and his music is awesome. The music in the games is pretty freaking awesome. Like whenever I log in, one of the things I have to do is go to the store, see what Nook tracks are on offer.
I
couldn't remember the name of the store because I'm like, wherever Tom Nook is, like I just don't know what the name of that building is.
Nook's Cranny. Nook's Cranny, that's what it is.
No, because Nook's Cranny is where the two guys are selling stuff, and it's not there. You have to actually go to the ATM.
Is it
just the rec center?
No, it's the community center, but it's like
people are gonna. It's
like the ATM, but Nook.
I'm just like people that are listening to this are probably gonna be like, y'all idiots should know. But
and then I kind of want to say Nookazon, but that's like an online thing. That's like an internet thing.
Nookazon was people selling things online in real life. Which is like, wow, guys. But anyway, like I know Jeff fell into the game heavy. Like I remember, like all of a sudden, it's like I hopped on my Switch and I saw he was playing. I was like, "What you doing, boy?" You know, and then he was having a good time with it. And the community is really like live and vibrant. Like you can get in a Discord and get into a turnip exchange, because like your turnips might be like 80 bells and the lowest, so people come and buy on your island, and then the next, like later in the week, someone's are like 600, so everybody can go to their island and turn for a profit, which is nice. And then there's also the trading as far as like, well, I have these fossils and I don't need them, would you like them? And it's not like give me this in exchange, it's like give me whatever you can in exchange, and if you don't have it, just take them. Like I don't need them, so just have fun with it. So it's like a very cool like community that they've built with it. The villagers are awesome. It was like Matt and I both had the same experience with our first villager wanting to leave the island.
Yep.
kind of like I'm all right. I'm just gonna turn this off for a second. So just put the switch in rest mode and just kind of like put it to the side, because like when you get to the island, you have 2 islanders that you start with, and they're your posse, and you just hang out with them and chat with them as you're building up your island and going off to islands and exploring.
Hand me and Mira, man. Hand me and Mira.
Getting. I still have one of my very first islanders. One of the 2 already left. He was the first. He was like the first one to leave, and I was like, you know what? Go ahead. And pretty much every single one that said that they want to leave from here on out, I've said, yeah, like, that's cool. Go ahead. Just to see what the other villagers would be that would come to the island. And so it's just like, like your villagers are cool. Building up the island is pretty awesome. And then once you do the KK Slider concert, you get the terraformers, so you can actually change your island to make it look like what you want. And I have not done anything with that because I pretty much like the way my island looks. Like there might be a couple of things I'd change on it, but I haven't really like gone back to it to really look at that. Now for me, I've kind of like fallen off playing Animal Crossing, but for how many hours I put into it, I enjoyed it tremendously. I think I put over 100 hours into it, 150 hours into it or something like that. So over the course of the year. And it's nice for like, quick play session. Like you're just like, oh, I'm going to go in and do my dailies for the day. Oh, or I have like 2-3 hours. I can go in and start like trying to fish. Like fishing is fun in the game and relaxing. Running around and catching bugs and animals is fun in the game. Swimming, now that they added, I think that was August that they added swimming. So you can now go swimming around your island and catch creatures and take those and turn them into the museum. And if you don't have them at the museum, what is his name? The owl just takes
Blathers.
them. Blathers takes them. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And if he doesn't take them, you can go sell them for a profit. So it's just a fun, cool, relaxing game that I highly recommend anybody give a chance to it. Like if it's on your radar and you're like, I've been thinking of trying, Animal Crossing, it's a lot of fun. It's also very accessible for kids. Yeah. Like I said, like my niece and nephew play it, and I thought it would be more of an explosion on them, because the sad thing about when you share a cartridge, because they share the Switch, is it's 2 people on one island. It's not one person on an island and another person gets their own island. Both of those people live on that island. Their mom also has a house on the island now.
Are they sharing a cartridge or a Switch?
Both. They're sharing a cartridge and a Switch. So if you share,
if you just share a Switch, not just a cartridge, I think you run into this problem either way.
Yeah. So now they've added, you can transfer your island, and now you can like your save files and all that stuff. But anyway, so it's just Caleb, my nephew, he took something and hid it on the island somewhere for me, and I'll hear, Abby, my niece, says something about it, and then you can hear him chuckling from in the kitchen somewhere or whatever. And so she takes something of his and does something with it, and so it's just, I thought it would be way worse than what it is, but they seem to get along.
Then it turns into that Seinfeld episode. Now something of yours has been in the toilet.
Yeah. But like I said, it's like kind of playful. Like they don't do like anything that really means something to each other. They don't do anything with, but like they just have fun, like messing with each other's stuff when they get on and play. And so it's pretty cool. I think it would have been awesome if they would have allowed each person to have an island and actually the co-op be you go to the airport, or you know what I mean? Like if you go in and say you want to join, it says, okay, that person's going to fly into your island. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, it's Nintendo and their online is like
questionable.
Always the afterthought.
Yeah, it's like back before 2000. I mean, it's not bad for what they want to do with the game, but it could be a lot better. But it's pretty cool.
That's a good way to describe it. It's not bad for what they want to do, but it's just bad for where the world is.
Right. I mean, they don't have online chat messaging. Like, so you do have messaging in the game. You could also download the Nintendo app to your phone and talk through that. Which I find is a lot easier to do. It's nice, whereas in like they lock out like you could use friend codes to only allow a certain amount of people on your island. You can open it up to just your close friends, or you could open up your island to anybody that wants to come to your island, and anybody could just go and be like, I want to look for somebody to fly to their island, and be like, I'm going, you know? So it's cool.
Sorry, I blacked out.
Well,
Matt,
hang on.
Number 2.
Hang on. I just want to say that the meta things that happened around Animal Crossing, because this is my number 10. This is a tied for my number 10. And I get to talk about it. The meta things that happened around Animal Crossing were just as fascinating as Animal Crossing itself to me, especially once the turnip market became kind of hyper competitive on the internet, because you would see people saying, okay, I'll drop you a code to get on my island, but what are you bringing me for these turnip prices? And they would basically gate their island in a way that once you walked out of the airport, if you didn't drop that island, they would kick you off. If you dropped that item, like it got real weird.
Well, you were doing it, but I think you were doing it the wrong way. You were doing it on like Twitter.
No, I didn't get into any of this high level shit. I just found it fascinating to watch.
Right.
I was in it the same way you were with a community like, "Yay, come on over, buy this thing." And then I would actually go out of my way to draw something on someone's message board.
Just
because
you could leave messages, which was nice. Like I always dropped a bell of bags.
Like you I mean,
a bag of bells, and so 100,000.
But I also want to say there has to be online a compilation of all the shit that Orville and Wilbur say, because these two characters specifically, apart from Isabel, are the most special things in Animal Crossing. After playing New Horizons, I understand why everyone loves Isabel, and I will not detract from that. But Orville and Wilbur, the dodos, are just the two most perfect, they're the two most perfect things to run a tiny airline since the show Wings. And the show Wings wasn't very good, to be honest with you. But Orville and Wilbur are wonderful. And with that, I'll lead into my number 2, which is, oddly enough, another debut game from the people at Cardboard Computer. It is called Kentucky Route Zero. It was released in full in January of this year, published by my favorite publisher, Annapurna Interactive. And it is one of the best stories I've ever played in video games. And I think if I were to read it as a book, it might be one of the best books I've ever read. In our category show last week, I spotlighted The Entertainment, which is basically an interlude between Act 2 and 3 that is a one-act play, but it puts the player in sort of the center of it, where they're using the camera to sort of look around and experience the play however they feel like it. But overall, this game is something special because I don't think any game has really tried to go this far with artistic touchstones and cultural references that stretch well beyond the ilk of like Family Guy or Ready Player One. The developers here are kind of swinging for the fences in terms of building a story for future generations to come to and look at, and maybe try. I mean, they're definitely trying to go for that literature. Like, this is how we can learn from the human condition now for the future, versus let's make a lot of hot button references now. I feel like it's almost like if it's like never mind. I'm not even going to go there anymore. Kentucky Route Zero is 6 acts of special in a way that whether you are bored to tears by it or completely enraptured by it the way I was, it is 6 acts of something you will not find anywhere else in games. I say 6 acts. It was published in 5, and there were 4 interludes. But I think the interludes fit in terms of like their own game, and you can play those for free on Cardboard Computer's website without actually playing the game. Which, if you wanted a free way to play the entertainment, I just gave it to you. But this game is wonderful. There are. It's not the graphical powerhouse that, say, Spider-Man or Ghost of Tsushima is, but that doesn't stop them from creating moments of just visual splendor and things that can knock me particularly on my ass, but that's also like comes from someone who watched people play the first 3 acts on YouTube or on Twitch, and then I said I wouldn't watch it anymore until the game was out and I could watch the whole thing, and then I was actually able to play the whole thing. Then we get to like how the game is played. It's essentially it starts off as a point and click adventure, and then it kind of becomes a novel wall of text with like good visuals behind it, but none of that sort of detracts from it. And then we get to the soundtrack. Ben Babbitt's soundtrack is an absolute motherfucker of a listen. Me personally, I can listen to it with or without the game. All of it is beautiful and evocative of both the game and other things. It hangs together really well. The songs with lyrics are not. It's kind of like how Purple Rain as an album and a film exist separately from one another. Like, you don't have to have seen the film to enjoy the album, and you don't have to enjoy the album to enjoy the film. Ben Babbitt's soundtrack is kind of a special thing that you don't often get with games. And as a whole package, Kentucky Route Zero knocked me on my ass, and I don't think I'm still really not able to get up from it. I still think about it at least 4 times a week, if not every day of the week. So yeah, Kentucky Route Zero is my number 2.
Michaela?
My number 2 is Neo number 2. I don't think this surprises anybody. Matt,
Nope,
did you guess the order right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, I make this pretty obvious. I don't hide anything about myself and my preferences when it comes to stuff that I truly, truly love. The first Neo, I had a very special experience with. I played it the first time on my own, and then I played it again as a streamer and got very much welcomed into the community with open arms and played the game on a different level. So I approached Neo 2 very differently than I did my first experience with the first Neo. And I've played a lot of Souls and Souls-inspired games since then, because technically Neo and Bloodborne were my introduction to the genre and the subgenre.
Welcome to your addiction.
Yes, basically. But Neo 2 refines what is already one of the deepest, most complex, and most satisfying combat systems in existence. And it keeps the level design and the world aesthetics that I love so much. I love the way Neo 2 looks as a game. I was worried about having the create your own character after having had the first game where you have an actual protagonist who you
Billy!
kind of self in. I love my Billy, man. I was like, oh, how can you go to a silent protagonist after having Billy? Who, I mean, is kind of like a Jin Sakai type of, like, he's not effusive as a character. He's not like a Miles necessarily, where you know that his personality from 10 miles out. He is a bit more of a, you can kind of project what you want onto him in a sense, but he still does have that identity. I kind of see that in both Jin and Billy. But actually, I loved what they did with your own character. And there was no lacking of personal narrative in this game, because now you're playing Neo 2 as a half human, half demon, and they tie that into the story really well. And everything with your friendship with Tokichiro ties into the story really well. It is actually, if anything, a more personal narrative than the first game's was. So never mind being worried about that. I was very happy with it. And I love a good character creator anyways. And I did a lot of like character creation with the alphas and the betas and stuff like that. It's super deep. It's great. And the story was very satisfying. Like I talked about the frenzied blaze and stuff like that. And seeing Hanzo and Nobunaga and all of those characters. There's Honda, everything, like a lot of characters who you're either going to recognize one-to-one or you recognize their descendants from the original Neo. It's very much a love letter to players of the first game, especially with like the epilogue stuff, which takes place after the original Neo's DLC. You actually have Lady Maria come into that briefly.
Oh, fuck that bitch.
Yeah, I know, right? Fuck that bitch. I will say there is one.
That fucking fight on Way of the Demon. Fuck off.
I know, she sucks. But there is one area where I will unequivocally say that Neo got it better than Neo 2, and that is the waifu. There is no equivalent to Akatsu. I mean, there's Mumyo in the second Neo, who is like your main female side character, but she is no Akatsu. I loved Akatsu and everything they did with her storyline and her dad and like jumping out the window.
Okatsu is awesome. Like, it was awesome until I started trying to co-op my way through that with randoms who all came in looking like Okatsu.
Yeah. You know what? I did it too, though. I had a Lady Maria and Akatsu skin.
Don't get me wrong. My two transformations in that game were Okatsu and the samurai from Sawayama.
Mm-hmm.
But it got real creepy, the amount of Akatsu I saw in the game.
She's a great waifu, though. But can I spoil something? This is a spoiler cast. Can I drop a spoiler?
No, go right ahead.
There is a side mission. So I told you Billy's in the epilogue. There is a side mission in the epilogue region where you go looking for Billy's son. And there's a reason I brought this up while talking about Akatsu.
Motherfucker, what? No. Oh. I don't like that.
It's Billy Gen 2.
I don't like it.
Oh, are you kidding me? I loved it.
I mean, yeah,
I shipped it.
But see, you like Billy. Like, I could take or leave Billy. Like, Akatsu's way better than Billy.
I like them together. They rescue each other. They balance each other out.
I feel like in real life, Billy and Fuku would end up together because Fuku is that kind of boring.
No. But to each his own.
Let's just be honest. As long as Tomei remains untouched, we're okay.
There is another blacksmith in Neo 2. Obviously not Tomei, because she wouldn't have been born yet.
Right. Yes.
So, yeah, and the main thing was Neo 2, the combat was super satisfying. That's the main takeaway for Neo. Like, I really enjoyed the story, even more so in Neo 2 than I did in the first Neo. But they added to the combat. They changed the way that guardian spirits work, because now you're demonic, so you have these demon cores. You can take attacks from some of your enemies and plug them in to your own build and use them. So, like, there's a Ippon Datara, which is like basically a demon.
I'm sorry, what?
Ipon Datara. That basically uses.
My mother was a saint. Thank you very much.
That basically either uses a hammer or a sword, like a pogo stick, and it's a demon. And you can take that, and you can take its move, and you can get that hammer and slam shit with it, and it's super satisfying. But you still also have your living weapon, sort of, except there's 3 different types of Guardian Spirit, and it translates into 3 different move sets for your Guardian Spirit, your living weapon mode, as it would be in the first game. The demonic cores are cool.
Jesus Christ, this is deep.
Yeah, they added burst counters. So while you mentioned earlier, Neo, you have to level into the parry per weapon. That you have burst counters from the get-go, which is like a demonic counter, which is based. You can only do it when you see the red Q. Like certain enemies will have an attack that flashes red, and you do the burst counter, and you slap them on the face. It's great. So they just somehow added to an already deep system and made it deeper. And I, as you know, am waiting on 2.0 movie theater butter. So
movie theater butter. So the Guardian Spirits in Neo 2, are they basically the same as Neo 1?
No.
Not at all.
Like mechanically, you pick
not
one
like
of the
not
shrines.
like I'm talking about like the are they the same Guardian Spirits?
No, you don't start with like Kato and stuff like that. No, they're
So
different.
There's
Some
no
of them are similar.
Daibawashi, there's no paired Reiken.
No, but there's different ones. There's
Okay.
going to be similar ones. They're also going to be based on a lot of the Japanese mythology and stuff like that. They are different ones though, and a lot of fun ones to play around with. Obviously, you can mix and match and try all different stuff, and they've got all the different buffs, and you can level them up and all this stuff. There was something else I wanted. Oh yeah, basically my final note on Neo 2, because I know I'm going long here, is that Neo and Neo 2 are highly underrated games because they do only have a select audience. They are very difficult games. And I actually don't think most Souls games are that difficult because of the combat. They're difficult because of the exploration, and you don't know what to do or where to go because the game is not spoon-feeding you directions. Neo is very difficult, not just because the fights are hard, but because learning the system mechanically is hard. There's a lot of moving pieces. So there's a steep learning curve. And because of that, it is limited to a certain audience. It's not going to be accessible to everybody. But I wish that the industry would recognize this more, this franchise more as the, I would say, arguably best example of a Souls-inspired action RPG to do something truly special and make such a quality game from a narrative, gameplay, combat, and setting perspective. It is just an accomplishment, an achievement for Team Ninja.
I agree with you on all accounts. And I really think if Neo were a world rather than a set of levels, I'll bet you people would have latched onto it differently.
I don't know. I actually like the mission base because, as you know, I've said this before, I don't love open world, and I love that you can replay stuff very easily. Whereas Dark Souls or whatever, you want to redo a boss fight, you have to replay the game.
Right. I'm in, but I actually think that because this was just level based and it was a series of levels, I think because it came in 2017, when we had a good, we could probably, we'll talk about since like Fallout 3. That's a good 10 years of iterating on the open world idea. And I feel like people had adapted to that. I mean, by that time we had 6 years of Souls games, or 6 years of playing Souls games. I mean, 8 if you count Demon Souls.
Which I think you should.
Right. But that was ultimately like dealing in relatively open areas, just not being like true open world, but like it instead of being a series of like Mario 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, like Neo is, it was, Borderlands. And I ultimately think that system left a lot of people confused in a lot of ways.
I see your point there, because 2017, Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn,
Yep.
Assassin's Creed Origins. It is a
Yep.
big year for open world
hmm
and well-executed open world, although I'm going to argue on Origins, but the first two I
Sure.
named, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Fine.
But I think the bigger roadblock is the difficulty of the game itself and also learning the game, because like you have leveling and equipment, and the equipment has like 7 different stats and effects on it, and then you also have skill trees for every single weapon and your magic and your ninjas. Nobody knows what to do with any of it. It's a very difficult game to learn.
It is one of those things that until you start putting in that time, you will get nothing from it. And I mean, that's why it took me so long to go back and platinum it, is just because I had to just sit down, buckle down, and do the reading. And when I did, all of a sudden that game started to sing to me rather than intimidate me. And I'm going to say it now. I'm probably going to end up buying Neo 2 before the end of this year and playing it. So I'm probably going to bother you for co-op while we're off. Cool.
My number 2.
Oh, there are other people here, Michaela. Who knew?
Jason, how you doing?
My number 2 is Doom Eternal. And
Ooh.
I can
Now, I will say this. Kind of surprised.
I'm not. I kind of knew what the top 2 were going to be over here in this corner.
And I'm not going to lie, the next Doom that comes out, probably going to be in the top 3 or 5 at least.
I honestly legit expected Doom Eternal to be your number 1.
You know what? I was leaning towards that as well.
Yeah.
I was leaning towards the one that's left. We all know what it is.
Well, he hasn't said Yakuza Like a Dragon yet, so I don't know.
He hasn't said Persona 5 Royal either, so.
I haven't mentioned any of the Ratalaika games yet. Or
Halo
My Name is
Born
Mayo.
is available on PS5.
Daggerhood for the win, son.
I did review that, but I also did review Doom.
Yes, you did.
Doom's
cool.
it's cool. It's just a fun game. It's just fun. And this one added more of a story and a grappling hook to the shotgun to cause further carnage, and then added a sword that one-shot anything. It was just cool.
Did they make Doom Halo?
Like, it's just cool. And like, for the people who were like, oh, the Marauders, they were too difficult, this made it wasn't fun. Get good, son. Seriously, they added a challenge. They were fun. It was cool not just ripping one enemy apart with a rocket launcher. You had to use 5 rockets. It was more satisfying to do that. The gory kills were cool.
Fatality.
Basically, it's basically Mortal Kombat Fatality in first person the whole time. I mean, rip and tear.
Mm-hmm. Rip tear.
I mean, it's just a fun game. I'd say it's my happy place, but then I'd be leaning towards serial killer territory. But it was fun.
You know, I'm going to say, since this is a game, it doesn't necessarily, because like.
No, I know. I'm kidding. It's not psychological. Ooh, this is fun.
I mean, there's a way that murder can just release endorphins. And there's a special kind of way that Doom murder releases endorphins. So,
and I will say, they're consistent in glitching my platinum, making me play an extra playthrough. This is the second time. Doom, the first one, and Doom Eternal. That's why I haven't gotten the platinum yet, because it glitched out and I got to play it again. Which I'm not
totally
that mad about.
Glitch.
Is that where John Romero goes, "Get good, son"?
Yeah.
I think so.
But yes, Doom Eternal was my number 2 for the year. And I actually look forward to playing the DLC, which I have not got to yet. But
aren't they adding a new update soon?
yes, they're actually updating the game a lot. People have a lot of fun with the multiplayer.
Nice. Very cool. I know it was like, underdeveloped on the first one, or lacking, I should say, maybe more so.
They fixed it towards the end cycle. They kind of added a lot to it. Added a whole new trophy set too.
Cool.
But there's one multiplayer mode in this one you can play as the demon.
Yeah, and you yeah. Kind of like, wasn't it 4v1 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool doing that. But yeah, this is just a fun game. And now to talk about Hades for the next 3 hours. Matt Moose.
Before we go there.
See also episode number 30 something.
Before we go there, I need to interject and interrupt and piss all of you off with the fact that I have a 1A this year.
I know what that is.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I'm calling it a 1A because it is one of my favorite games of all time, and I've watched multiple playthroughs of the entire thing. And while I have some thoughts about the choices made by the people who remade it, Demon Souls is fucking good, and it deserves to be celebrated as the ushering into the Souls genre. There is no game in this series, whether or not you include Sekiro in that or not. We're not going to debate that, Michaela, so please be quiet right now.
We will in January.
Fine. Good, I can rest up. But the weird choices that From Software made in 2009 with the multiplayer and the world tendency and the lack of a clear path on a way to go, be it starting at the first art stone or the final art stone, and NPCs speaking in oblique elliptical patterns, item descriptions giving you more story than narrations. Like, this is something that is ultimately for me, it has never been duplicated the way it was presented in Demon Souls. I think the loading screens where they gave you NPC pictures in sepia tone, it presented the game with a certain type of sheen. I don't think Phantoms have looked as good since. I don't think spell casting has been as close to good or as good since, except maybe in Dark Souls 2. The boss fights, while they definitely reek of like being an 11-year-old game, it doesn't. There's so much creativity on display here, and if one were to take a chance and notice it all, it actually is something that, like, this is the From Software that this is when From Software changed. It wasn't Dark Souls, because Dark Souls blew up. Yes, we can't really dispute that. But this is when they said, okay, this is our way forward. And they threw so much at the wall, and all of it with respect to very little has stuck. And they're still doing it today. They did. I mean, there's signposts even in Sekiro to Demon Souls. There's signposts in Bloodborne to Demon Souls. There's signposts in every Dark Souls game to Demon Souls. The praise the sun gesture comes from Demon Souls. The only thing that doesn't originate in Demon Souls is the Moonlight Greatsword. And I think that actually originated before the Kingsfield games and has actually made its appearance in Armored Core games. So my point here is Demon Souls is good and the Moonlight Greatsword is eternal. Michaela, I stopped you from talking about this earlier. You should say some things as well.
I'll keep this one pretty brief because I kind of already said a lot of it when I talked about this last week. But basically, Nothing about this game feels dated, but some stuff about like the Dark Souls remaster that I played last year does feel a little dated. So I was worried that it was going to feel slow, especially like I told you, I went from Bloodborne and Neo and then to Dark Souls 3 and on back. So the combat gets slower while the exploration gets more intricate. You can make that argument. So I was worried that I was going to have that same barrier. Not the case. The level design is an achievement, an absolute achievement. And I was worried about it, but it blew my mind. It blew my expectations. Obviously, I've talked about it multiple times. The detail that Blue Point put into these environments. I never expected to say Demon Souls is a pretty game. It's a pretty fucking game. It is gorgeous. And it is
Don't let the comparison videos on YouTube fool you. It was pretty in 2009 too.
It was, but now it's 2 generations later with a layer of muck taken off of it.
You're right. Fine. I'm not really going to argue that point. But like,
and I've fangirled over like the details on like the scratches on your armor or the details on things like leaves, like small details that have been crammed into the environment that just look stunning. It brings everything to life. The combat is a little bit slower, but not as slow and clunky as I was worried it was going to be, not by half. I have steamrolled most of the bosses I've faced.
That parry window, though, am I right?
Yeah. I mean,
it's pretty open.
It is. But I don't like that.
Me either.
I usually go for the butt stab anyways. I don't call it a back stab. Although in Demon Souls, it is very much in the back, whereas in most subsequent games,
every enemy is taller than you. Every enemy is like super tall.
But it's been a sheer joy to play what I have played so far. I'm probably still a little less than halfway through it. And looking forward to getting back to it, although I'm probably gonna have to like warm up a bit because it might start kicking my ass if I'm not paying attention. But yeah, everything about this game it shows you the history of the genre come to life. This is where the boom started. This is essentially the big bang for Souls-likes that have taken what FromSoft did and turned it into a genre that goes beyond just franchise. And this is the beating heart of it, and everything has been just a joy to experience.
I'm glad, as someone who played it back then, seeing people play it now, and getting that kind of joy out of it is very heartening. Makes me feel like I'm a little less crazy. But
you still
less. Not saying I'm not crazy. I'm saying I'm less crazy. After all, I spend a lot of my time building robots for whatever reason now. So I believe the order is Moose. What's your game of the year?
Hades. It's not really that big of a surprise.
No, it's not, because my number one is Hades.
Saw it a goddamn mile away.
Michaela, your number one.
Do I need to even say it?
What is it?
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, how does it feel to be wrong? And Jason, your number one.
Matt builds Gundams. I collect Funkos, and this one arrived today.
Ooh, I'm not surprised by that. Yeah,
no, not surprised by that at all.
Not at all. Yeah,
not at all.
The Last of Us 2 is my game of the year.
Okay, so Moose and I'll talk about Hades because it was both of our number ones, and I think we're the first two in the order, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So Hades, Moose.
It's a goddamn good game.
Fucking right, it is.
I mean, the mechanics, the controls, the storytelling, just everything. Like, they took everything they've done with their previous games, and it's pretty much been like a home run. Mm-hmm. Every game Supergiant Games has made is a damn home run. The only game I have not played has been Pyre, which I do want to remedy that situation. But they are all fantastic games, and Hades just takes everything that they've done with those previous games and just polishes it and makes it way better. It's so good. It's so good. I love the story. I love the characters. The NPCs are awesome. It gives you a reason to care. Like when you die, you're like, okay, I died. That sucked. It makes it very easy to jump back into playing the game again, but it also gives you a chance to take a breather. But also when you're like, this run isn't going to go very far, it's like, well, that's fine. I have this story to complete with this certain NPC. So I'm going to go back to the world. You go through your motion of talking to everybody, kind of like your dailies, like you have your.
And sometimes those players weren't there or those NPCs weren't there.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, why weren't you here this time?
Right. And then you're like, I really wanted to finish that story. And it's like, now I got to wait for the next time. And so, you do your thing and you might level up or spend some of your, what is it? The shadow gems. You'll spend the currency to upgrade your mirror and become a little bit more powerful. And you could also upgrade your weapons, which to be honest, I haven't done any of that because I'm like, I want to look up the proper way to level, the most efficient way to level weapons. And because I've only leveled up, I believe, the spear, the trident. So that's all that I've leveled. I haven't leveled any of the other ones. And so I still have yet to go back and do that. I love the fact that like after you get to a certain point, you can roll credits, but then also even beyond that, there's still way more to be learning as far as like.
And there's an epilogue that is basically the same distance between credits and actually finishing it the first time.
Right. When you and also, like I said, just little notes of story as you keep playing. Like it's like, okay, like I rolled credits. I got this kind of story out of them, which I thought was great. It was a great way to end it. Leaves it open for possible DLC or maybe a sequel down the line or whatever they want to do with it, which is fine. Or they could just leave it the way it is and be like, it is what it is, and I'd have no problem with that and be fine with that. But then like as you're playing, you get other little snippets of background stories or further information. It's just like, this is just awesome how deep they made the story and the lore of the world of Hades. And also it's a beautiful game. Like all their games are beautiful. The artwork is just phenomenal, and the fact that it's got like a great animation style to it, which I love, and it's so good. It's awesome.
Dovetailing on your ideas about leveling, I actually I haven't done this research, so I could totally eat shit and be wrong here, but I have a feeling that if you were to try and find the most efficient way to level in Hades, you would probably find several different ways, as many as probably there are weapons in the game, because the success of this game as a roguelike is its balance.
Right.
And I know we had this conversation like while we were doing this for Game Club, but every weapon is completely viable. I beat the game with my least favorite weapon first.
Ditto.
And
what was yours?
It was the bow.
Ditto. I was like, I'm going to hate the bow, and I picked it, I don't know, for some odd reason, and was just going through the game and just beat it and was like, that's crazy. That's when you know it's a good game, when you can still reach the end and do something with a weapon that you don't like.
But in that same playthrough, I'm like, oh, I gotta fucking play with the bow again. Okay,
right.
But see, I go into the playthrough and say this is just a wash. I'm just gonna do whatever. And I basically every time I picked up an orb to talk to a god, or I went to chaos every time because I wanted to end the run. But that I kept staying alive. But I would basically make the worst choice or the stupidest choice every time. And then all of a sudden, like picking things that I perceived as completely disparate from one another, they synergized, and I was able to I was basically able to keep going. And if you last long enough after going to chaos a few times, those extra perks start paying off like in spades. And all of a sudden I found myself beating Hades, and I was like, wait, how did I do it with the fucking bow? I hate the bow. And then you start finding ways to open things up, and you use that Titan blood to open up another weapon, and you could basically use it to augment the weapon you love. And then you go through and stomp the shit out of the game with that particular weapon. This game is, if you were to take the story out of it, and while we have said on this is one of the best stories in games, I think even if you take the story out of this game is a genre-defining roguelike or roguelite, or however you want to call it, because of its balance. And because every weapon is viable. Anytime I start Gungeon or Isaac or any of the I say combat-based roguelikes, but they're roguelikes that require you to use a weapon, whereas Spelunky really doesn't. It's easy to figure out how far you're going to go. Like if your starting thing in Isaac is Tiny Planet, I mean, it's going to take a lot to dig an average player out of that hole. Whereas if you start with Brimstone, all of a sudden that average player is super overconfident and will find ways to kill themselves. Hades doesn't have that, to my recollection. I'm pretty sure you could be, you could get absolutely cavalier with taking damage and find your way into dying. But if you're keeping your eye on the ball, as it were, like, you can make anything work. Unfortunately for other roguelikes, and unfortunately for roguelikes that exist, this game has an absolutely impeccable cast of characters that are well written and a story that is absolutely wonderful. And not to mention, like, every single god you talk to via power-up in this game is hot. Mm-hmm. Almost every character in this game is, like, hot. Even the ugly ones.
Even your mother, Trebek.
Right. Well, I'm glad my mom's not in Hades, though. That would be weird. And we can't not mention the three-headed best boy that is Cerberus.
Yeah.
It was really, like, I know after our Hades Game Club episode, I was like, I think Spelunky 2 might still be my game of the year at the time. I'm glad I was right and chose Hades as my number one. Jason and Michaela, I know this game was on your respective lists. Do either of you have anything to say?
I mean, you guys covered a lot of it, because this roguelike is special because of the characters and the story that have become characteristically Supergiant. Supergiant is known from the beginning for its art and for its music with Darren Korb, who again
knocked it out of the park.
But Pyre is where they turned the corner with their characters, I think.
I don't know. I mean,
Transistor and Bastion just don't have quite the size in terms of the cast, so they don't have the variety that you get with Pyre and Hades.
You're right. Transistor and Bastion have ideas.
Yeah.
Whereas Pyre has characters. Okay, I'm with you.
Yep. Yeah, I'm talking sheerly about the characters and
Okay.
the things that they were trying to do with the narrative in Pyre is kind of what inspired the style of game you have with Hades. They wanted that procedural storytelling that got people to replay and try for new outcomes and undiscovered material. But Pyre was the wrong genre of game. A lot of people would play it, but they wouldn't replay it.
Yeah.
So Hades became that engine of replayability for their procedural storytelling, and that's what you get. You get a roguelike that is an engine for replayability because of its storytelling, but also because it is mechanically sound as a roguelike. It's a match made in heaven here. And then you've got Supergiant style all over it. They achieved the goals they set out to achieve, and I don't think there is any higher compliment you can pay to a studio like that. And they're getting widespread recognition for it. Like their sales were really good at the start, and a lot of people were talking about it. But then it gets nominated 9 times at the Game Awards. That's all. I guess got to be unheard of for an indie game. I don't think any other game got nominated 9 times for anything this year.
I don't think so this year, but also like a game with a studio that size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are a
Like-
true indie studio.
Like we talk about how the video games needs its Oscars, but like the Game Awards consistently has been super short-sighted in terms of what it chooses to recognize, and it usually recognizes only things squarely within the AAA space. And the fact that Hades is stamped its ticket all over the award show, something
Says
to be proud
something.
of.
I mean, like
Yeah.
Celeste was up a couple years ago for Game of the Year, but it was nominated in pretty much every freaking category. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
Hades is. And Supergiant has been my favorite indie studio for a long time. And I said earlier that 2020 has been the best year for games since 2017. 2017, you had the first Neo. You had the original version of Persona 5. You had Pyre come to console out of early access.
My second,
2020
my
has mimicked-
runner-up game of the year that year. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that was missing was Horizon came out in 2017, which was huge for me. But we got the announcement of the second game, so I'll count it. 2020, 2017, there's a lot of parallels in terms of games that make me happy. So I'm very happy.
You know what? No, let's put Gorilla to task. You fucked up not releasing it.
Don't release it too early. What are you doing?
What kind of a shit show you run around here?
I mean, you guys let me
I
host.
think I had
this
time
shit,
to play a
so-
Horizon this year with all this shit. I
That's
played
true.
a lot of games this year.
Jason, did you say Hades wasn't on your list?
Well, technically it was 11.
Oh, okay. All right. Why do we hang out with him?
I don't know.
Oh, he edits the
He
show.
runs the show.
No,
He's secretly in charge.
he
He also plays a fuckload of games.
I think
does. He does.
I think Hades was an excellent game. I can't really find any faults with it. But I think it's, for me, with a roguelike, I like not that Hades, I was like, oh, if I use the bow, I favored the spear. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to win every time. I like the Neon Abyss, the Dead Cells, like, what weapon do I start with this time?
Yeah.
And not knowing, and then all of a sudden, oh my god, I am an immortal god, I'm going to wreck shop.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate that aspect of roguelike more, and that's more important to me. But like I said, I don't think Hades did anything wrong in my book.
Sure.
It did a lot. Like, the combat felt great. The story was great. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed a lot, but to me, it did everything well. It didn't excel in stuff to really pull me in enough for. I mean, it made top 11 for me. I mean, if I had to look, I probably played close to 60 games.
Yeah, you played
The
way more
completion
than
share.
I did. That's for sure.
I mean, the 11th best game. I mean, that's still high. It's just not
It's not the top 10. That's okay.
right.
It's okay.
It's just phenomenal. Like, and I have because I can guarantee in my top 10 I can find something I hated in those games. Hades didn't really have anything I hated, but I don't think it excelled in enough for me to pull it into that list.
Fair.
Plus, the Hypnos line is one of my. We didn't do last year we had best lines. the
Mhm.
Hypnos thing, you died of natural causes?
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty good. He's like, is this
Did
what?
Redacted?
this was like
Yeah,
Yeah,
redacted.
the
My
redacted
favorite is
was fucking-
my favorite is redacted got you again, huh?
yeah.
Man, you better rest up, get them back. So I think we are to Michaela now.
I want Moose to go first because I'll probably
Moose
talk a
is
little bit
Moose,
longer.
Moose and I
Moose is
already
not-
did.
Oh.
babies.
No, he had FF7 on his
I
list.
had FF7 on my list. That's number
Oh
10.
yes. Okay.
FF7 is one of those games where like you hear the music and it's like straight nostalgia. It's an amazing game. I had a blast with it when I first played it back in. I'm not going to date myself, but it's a good time. It was one of the first.
You're not, but I will. Moose and I are in our 40s, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Anyways,
We're fucking old Moose.
it was one of the first. Actually, no, it was the first turn-based JRPG that I completed, and the first one that I played, and it was one of the games that made me get a PlayStation. The main game that made me do that was Star Ocean Second Story. But anyways, the characters just fell in love with them. The story was crazy to follow, but it was still a good time. Had a good time with it. The battle system was awesome. The limit breakers, it had a lot going for it. And so coming into it and playing it again, the remake was just what they did with the game was just amazing. Like you look at the game and you're like, Michaela will speak to it later. Like how can they change this and improve this and make this better and really like make it look like a current gen game? And they did it. Like did an amazing job with it. And the battle system is updated and plays, in my opinion, better. I like it more. Unfortunately, the reason it was at number 10 for me was because I didn't play as much of it as I wanted to. I didn't complete it. I need to, and I'll probably have it as an honorable mention as favorite old game next year's category listings, just because I'll probably play through it and be like, man, that would have been a lot higher if I would have actually spent more time. I think the reason I didn't play more of it was because of another game called Division 2. Sadly, but
Never heard of it.
no one's ever heard of that game. I don't know, but seeing the characters again and hearing the music, you're just like, it's like a drug. It just takes you back to like you time travel with it, and my brain goes back to the younger version of me and what I was doing at that time and how life was going at that time, and it's just crazy. It's one of the few games that I know that can do that for me, and I love the theme music for it, and just the characters are awesome. It's just a great game. So I highly recommend anybody tries playing it. I know a certain someone on the panel will probably never play it, which is
Probably
fine.
not. No.
But I think everyone should at least play it once. So Michaela.
Yep. So kind of to pick up on what you were talking about, this game sits on the point of a sword. One edge of that sword is staying true to the original and honoring the source material. The other edge is taking risks and doing stuff that is new, but still creates a cohesive game that is recognizable as FF7. And I think they pulled that off. Some people are very concerned about the ending, and I will admit that I don't know where this next part's going to go. But a lot of the stuff that they added, like developing out the Avalanche characters, adding extra story sequence moments with Aerith, the Sephiroth flashbacks, everything that makes this game as much a sequel as it does a remake, exceeded expectations, because I talked about this already a little bit. this game is imagination and dreams come to life for somebody who played the original. Yes, you can play it as a new player, and I will get into that actually a little bit because I want to tell a story and I will be quick as I can. But you can play this game as a new player and enjoy it. But the way that a returning fan plays this game and appreciates this game is on another level and understands the things that they did, the references that they made, the additions that they made, the gaps they filled in. I have to applaud Kitase and Nomura and everyone who worked on this game, because they brought these I think the biggest thing is they brought these characters to life in a way that you can't really get with the 97 original. Sure, there's been, like subsequent games like Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus, and you've got the movie with Advent Children, and you've had a bunch of stuff in the FF7 universe and the canon. But these characters are more developed now. There's more scenes, there's more intimacy, there's more personality. You see more growth in the characters, especially the core, especially because Cloud obviously is always the focus, but Aerith, Tifa, and Barrett are more fleshed out. Avalanche is more fleshed out, so that you feel every loss deeper. You feel every love deeper. And this game did something that very few games will do for any gamer in their life. And it did it for me, where it grabbed me and would not let go. I was up till 4:30 in the morning every night thinking about this game. I finished writing my big article about it, talking about the implications of the story and the ending at 4:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and then passed out because I couldn't sleep for thinking about this game. It had a hold of me. Very few games will do that to you in your lifetime. And those are the games that you think of as your favorite games of all time. Like for me, my FF10 stuff. And as a kid, Kingdom Hearts. There's very few games that do not let go of you. This was one for me. It did something incredibly special because there was lore to puzzle out. You think with a remake, you know everything that's coming, but no, this is a remade game. It is a remake of the original, and it is a reimagining of the universe and the story and where it's going. It's off its rails. I don't know what's going to happen next. I expect Aerith will still die, but the fact that they can even make me question it is interesting. And spoilers here, but Zack didn't die? Question mark? What is going on here? Sephiroth.
He didn't know the first time.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
You're misremembering it. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm not. But and then Sephiroth is from the future question mark. I don't even know. But everything about the game just sucked me in. The music transports you. The music is a key foundation of this. It just transports you. And something that was special for me to experience was after I platinumed this game, I watched my roommate play this game. And she had listened to me ramble about FF7 a lot in the build-up to this game, but I had withheld several key pieces of information about Cloud and Jenova and Sephiroth and all that stuff. She knew stuff like Aerith dies and stuff like that. But watching her experience this game and seeing her get so caught up in it that we were having 3-4 hour conversations about this game, and she was getting into Final Fantasy, really into Final Fantasy for the first time ever, was just, you can't replicate that kind of experience. That is a truly personal Game of the Year experience where I watched somebody else I know very well become a fan of this game. So the game wouldn't let go of me. It wouldn't let go of my roommate. The game owned this apartment as much as the Centipedes did this year. And
wow, Centipedes have some Final Fantasy to reckon with.
But I remember as soon as the credits rolled, because Jess wanted me to tell her about the rest of FF7 that happens beyond the section that Part 1 covers here in the remake. I turned to Jess and I told her Cloud was never in Soldier and Jenova is Sephiroth's mom, but also Cloud has Jenova cells in him and he is a Sephiroth clone. She's like, What? She was freaking out. We were having this whole lore conversation. It was just a true joy that you can't fake. So
Right.
That's what FF7 represents to me.
You know what that sounds like?
What?
That sounds like when I finished Demon Souls for the first time. Like, and not to, I'm not like trying to, but like when Ahmed and I co-opted that, and he watched, because like, if I remember correctly, he noped out of like the final like 4 fights. He's like, I want you to beat these on your own. I'm like, all right. All right. Well, I eventually did it because here I am. Rock you like a hurricane. But after that, I was like, oh. So wait a minute. All of this, and then there's that, and then there's that, and there's that. Because like by this time I had gone back and played Dark Souls, and like I was seeing all those parallels. So clearly, this is Jess, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So clearly, Jess is having the conversation with you that I was having with Ahmed, and basically just like trying to reconcile all of this in their head. And yeah, that's a beautiful fucking thing.
It's not something you can engineer. It is only
No.
something that can happen organically.
Yeah.
And for us here in this apartment, that's what happened this year, and that's a magical moment. And
Mhm.
it comes from the love that was put into this game in 97 and in 2020. There's just love everywhere in every single detail, in every edition, and in every honoring of the source material that they did. From the squatting mini game and the honeybee inn and all the dumb shit to the really
Wall
serious
Market.
moments with like the plate dropping. Yeah, Wall Market,
Hell House.
Hill House, everything was just, I didn't have anything to complain. Like some people were like, the doors have low texture res, blah. And I'm like, oh, who gives a fuck? I don't give a shit right now. I'm having the time of my life.
Oh my God, there's so much pop in. What the hell?
It's like, I'm going to go fight this behemoth over here and ignore you. I really don't care.
Yeah.
But everything was so much fun. Everything was so much fun. I'm a little scared of what's going to come next, but also incredibly excited. And come at me. Bring on part 2. Just no trailer during the Game Awards, please. I'm not putting my face on TikTok.
We'll find out in 3 days.
You are.
FF16, please, bye.
Our fearless leader, Jason Marshall.
Fearlessly. You mean ringleader?
The Last of Us.
I mean, he's basically herding feral cats at this point.
Exactly.
Except for like Michaela.
He's trying to nail
I go
Joe
on an
in
acid
the
trip.
tree. Can we finish the show?
The Last of Us Part 2. So I've mentioned this before. The Last of Us was the first console game I played through like nonstop, and I realized there was life outside of Warcraft. I wasn't a PC gamer. I just played Warcraft. I mean, I played StarCraft, but it was pretty much. So I decided to play more console games. I was excited for The Last of Us 2, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't wait. It was just, I love the first game. Can't wait for the sequel, but it's like, Last of Us 2 turned into my 100th platinum, which was kind of cool that it got to that. It's my number 1 game this year, and it was my 100th platinum. The story, like, Joel dying was spoiled, but stuff in the beginning of the story, it's not that bad because, all right, he dies. You obviously have a whole game after this. Like, where are you going to go?
Yeah, I think that would be different if he died at the end.
If he died, like, if you play as him and then he's dead and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I hated Abby the first, like, she kills him. You're like,
You're supposed to hate her then.
gruesome. But then, like, not only do you not hate her, but you kind of, you have concern. You see her build a relationship with 2 other characters in the second half, and then you don't want to, like, you're fighting Ellie, and you're like, I don't want either of them to die. Like, I don't want to kill. Like,
You just want Ellie to stop it. Just stop it.
and also, I mean, Last of Us doesn't reach ghost like landscape. Like, Last of Us is a darker game, but the amount of time Naughty Dog put into this, some of the animations, like facial animations, reactions to stuff. You throw a bottle and an enemy reacts, you see like the broken glass. You see reflections and stuff.
I think it is generation defining for facial animation, but also technical achievement.
Like, Naughty Dog always puts their A game, but this, like, they really, and they nailed it. Like, I had no issues. I didn't think the pacing was bad. It's not supposed to be a fast game. The story progressed naturally. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we'll take a break now and do random side quests. Like, you had to like go through the story. Like,
You do kind of replay the same 3 days, so I do see where people were maybe, if they weren't engrossed in it, or they really just decided they weren't going to sympathize with Abby. But I thought it was a very bold move, and I liked it.
yeah, at first I was like, I caught on what they were doing, but then I was like, is this just going to be like Abby's in the same room the whole time? But there was a whole different, it veered off the whole, you guys are probably seeing the screenshots of like the top of the skyscraper. Like, that was so cool. And that was totally opposite of what Ellie was doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like the same, like at first you'd like, oh, okay, we're doing, now Abby's, we're going to come to a head. But like, it wasn't the same thing. And there was, there's one part you don't get, you're on the skyscraper and you have to work your way down in a building. And the building's infested. I like played half of it edge of seat, half of it standing up, because it was like white knuckle, like light. It was like late at night and the lights were off, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna turn on a few lamps and
The whole house is lit like a Christmas tree by the end of it.
no, I'm good. I'm gonna turn the lights on.
Arya comes down. Daddy, why are the lights on? No, they're not on. It's bright outside. What are you talking
Morning.
about?
Like, it wasn't necessarily jump scares, but the tension, you could feel the tension, which was so cool. Like you knew something was going to jump out. You could tell, like, you know, we watch a scary movie, you hear the music, you know, like, oh, something's about to jump out here. But the thing was, even so, when you go for the platinum, you have to, all the collectibles, so you had to replay sections. I had to replay that section in entirety. I knew where the jump scares were, and I still was like,
Damn it.
no. There's literal sections where you see something out of the corner of like your eye run past. You know it doesn't jump out, but even the second time through, I'm like, shh, fuck. Get to the point, and then I'm like, wait, I have a full mag on my assault rifle this time, and I know I don't have a boss fight. Fuck that, I'm sprinting.
Nice.
Well,
I was
that's
go ahead.
well. I just want to say. I just want to add in, like, that was, as someone who has mixed feelings about the first Last of Us, like, just from memory, like, the tension in that game was kind of what propelled me through it, and I'm glad that they were able to keep that in 2.
And yeah, and I think they improved a lot of quality of life. Combat's better. I mean, I noticed the pacing issues when I replayed stuff for the platinum. But you know what? If you're not a trophy, if you're a trophy hunter, you kind of expect that. You had to have done games where you have to replay whole games.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But like, that was only the second time through because you knew how long you had to go through a section.
Right.
just everything about it, the story, like I just loved everything. Like it was just so cool. Like I think they did a phenomenal job.
Well, cool.
Favorite game of the year. And it's 100 platinum. So it's always like
That landmark will always be on PSN profiles.
Like I won't forget, but I mean, in a few years, it'd be like, oh, what was your number one in 2020? I'm like, what was 2020 again? But like, I'll always have 100th platinum.
Mm-hmm. You'll always have that. Well, so that's all of our top 10s. It's been a year, y'all.
It has.
So for Story Route Zero, we are taking the rest of 2020 off. And if we survive, we will end up opening 2021 with a game club episode on sleeping dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that here because I'm going to need to remind myself. So I'm going to need to get started on that game. But that'll be our first thing for next year. And then we also have other conversations planned, like the Souls-like discussion. We are looking forward to a season 2 full of trying to recruit guests to come join whatever this is to chat. But before Moose takes us out of here, do any of you have anything to say real quick?
Thank you for letting me come on this show midway through season 1 because this was a great experience. And I'm just going to get the sap out the way.
Well, thank you for
Thanks for
coming
putting
along
up
for the
with
ride. Yeah. I feel like we owe you more than you owe us. And then, so we are going to be watching the Video Games Awards. I said that wrong. The Video Game Awards.
The Jeff Keighley Awards.
The Keighley's.
Yeah.
Which they will probably forever be known at some point. We are going to be watching the game. I don't know if all 4 of us will be there just because it's Thursday and I have to work and it depends on how I am after work, but I know you 3 definitely are. How is that happening?
Probably Zoom, and I'll try to record it, but
Okay, so we're not guaranteeing that. So we might do a little bit of recap when we get back. And that's if we remember, because, we all got jobs. But if nothing else, I'm going to say one thing and then Moose can take us out. Look at this world we're made for. Come with me. We'll take tomorrow. Everything you want is waiting for you. Take it in, the light around us. Perfect love is all around us. Everything you need is waiting for you. Moose.
Bye.
At Story Route Zero, we have some cool friends who do some cool things, and I'd like to tell you about them. Phoenix Overdrive uses the power of games and gamers to help heal sick kids through the charity Extra Life. Phoenix Overdrive fundraises for Children's Miracle Network hospitals all year, every year, and the fun culminates in a 24-hour gaming marathon. Find out more about their events and projects online via Facebook at facebook.com/Phoenix Overdrive or on Twitter and Instagram at PHX_Overdrive. You can also join the Facebook group of Pawn Stars at facebook.com/groups/PO Nation in order to share and discuss all the latest in nerd culture. They've also got a podcast, Nerd Overdrive, which you can see weekly at youtube.com/Phoenix Overdrive. You can also catch it on Facebook Live or twitch.tv/PHX_Overdrive. That podcast is also published on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. You want merch? They got merch. Merch can be ordered from tinyurl.com/PHXOD merch, a portion of which goes to their fundraising efforts. Join the nation and be a hero to sick kids, as El Capitan Rey Osorio, Lee the Maestro, and Becky, the lovely queen of the guild, always say, #Rise Above. Thank you for listening to Story Route Zero. We hope you have enjoyed your time here as much as we've enjoyed having you. Once again, questions, concerns, complaints, pictures of pets, or favorite recipes can be sent to storyroute0@gmail.com. You can yell at us on Twitter @StoryRoute0. Rate us and review us on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you may have found us, as it helps with discoverability. If you'd like to hit us up individually, you can find Moose Cruel @Sven, that's SVHENN on Twitter, PSN, Instagram, and of course Twitch, streaming games. You can find Jason Marshall writing at obelisk.co. You can also find him on Twitter @GimpyJ with 2 Y's at the end, as well as PSN, Instagram, and Twitch. He also has his own website, whereisthepausebutton.com. You can find Michaela Crescione doing all sorts of writing at obelisk.co, as well as on Twitter @RedXMaud. My name is Matthew Keel. You can find me everywhere I'd like to be @infinite_rewind. That's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Twitch, that's PSN, and I also have my own website, infiniterewind.com. Be sure to check us out at all the places. You are always welcome, and you will always have a seat waiting for you on this ride. Thank you for listening, but for now, it's back to the real world for us. So we will see you on the next one.